Who doesn't love going to the beach? This is Long Beach, but there's no surfing or boating today. This sunny afternoon in Southern California is all about IndyCars flying around these famed streets, a tradition that's been happening for decades. On the streets of Long Beach for the Acura Grand Prix, green flag flies, let's go!
Oh, look at that, Ed Jones. He makes contact with Pato.
Got hit. I clobbered Ryan with the right side.
Oh, big lockup.
The biggest mover in the pack, it is Colton Herta.
He's been the fastest guy all weekend. Newgarden was super deep on the brakes, charging the corner now, very much in the mirrors of Herta.
Colton Herta will have the last say of 2021. Herta wins at Long Beach.
Dude! Oh my God! Dude, you just won the Long Beach Grand Prix!
And Alex Palou is an NTT IndyCar champion!
Yes, boys! Yes! Oh my God, guys, you are amazing.
What a spectacular day. We've got to go racing here in California. Round 3 of the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series as NBC Sports welcomes you to IndyCar Live, presented by Liberty Mutual. Good crowd, great vibe, and perfect weather. All the right ingredients in the mix for a really enjoyable afternoon. 85 laps ahead of us for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Hi folks, Lee Diffie along with a couple of guys who know how to get to victory lane here. Townsend Bell, James Hinchcliffe. Hinch, what makes Long Beach special for you?
For me, Lee, it's the history of this place. After the Indianapolis 500, no other race has been on the calendar as long. After the Indy 500, no other place has the attendance. So for me, the drivers that have been here, the drivers that have won here, it's a list of all the greats. So after getting your face in the Borg Warner Trophy, what drivers want most, I think, is getting your face bronze in victory lane here in Long Beach, which is what you get if you're a winner.
And the reason this is such a great race is the atmosphere. It is all about sunshine, your seaside. There's celebrities behind us pretending like they've been race fans their whole life here today. And the reason this guy is always smiling is because he's a Long Beach IndyCar winner. I mean, this makes people's careers, absolutely, but it comes down to the racetrack. They'll be going 180 miles an hour down this Shoreline Boulevard, firing into turn 1, 4, maybe even 5 cars wide to sort themselves out. It's super exciting, and it's Long Beach, baby.
And it's just that wonderful atmosphere. We're right here near the driver introduction stage. Just a great crowd, and as I said, all the right ingredients are in the mix. If you weren't with us yesterday for qualifying, let's get you up to speed with some of the biggest storylines. And from Andretti Autosport, the young Californian Colton Herta set a track record yesterday en route to his pole position, and he seems to be in his own zip code. Another guy going very well who'll start alongside him is Team Penske's two-time champion Joseph Newgarden, looking for another win. His teammate Scott McLaughlin, the second-year driver in IndyCar, leads the points, leads well. He had a little adversity. We'll talk about that in a moment this morning in morning warm-up, so he'll be on the back foot, so to speak. But he leads this championship for the second successive race. His teammate Will Power seems very calm this year. The defending champion is third, and Joseph Newgarden was one of the huge movers after his victory at Texas Motor Speedway just a couple of weeks ago. But Marty Snyder, why don't we talk about the man on top of the points?
Yeah, Scotty Mack, you mentioned that curveball in morning warm-up. They actually lost an engine, lost a header on the primary engine, went to a backup engine here, Scott. So how much of a concern is that for a driver when the engine hasn't been leak tested yet? The first laps are going to be the first lap of the race.
Yeah, fuel mileage is a little bit of an unknown as well with this engine, but hey, we can do it on the fly. We've got a great team. The Snap-on Chevy's been fast, which is the main thing. Team Penske are very good with the strategy. We'll make sure we're good, and Kyle's all over it. Kyle Moyer, my strategist, so we'll be okay. Unfortunately not to get the laps, but we know we're fast, and I'm excited to come through.
You've led 63% of the laps this year, which is incredible in the first 2 races, but you start 9th today. How different is the game starting 9th versus up front?
Yeah, it's very different, and at the same time, I'm on black tires where a lot of people around me are on reds, which is a good thing if I can hold my position. So, you know, I need to be ready for, you know, some aggression around me, but at the same time, you know, we've got a buffer, and I'm able to use that, and you know, especially in the points gap, so I'm able to be a bit more aggressive where other people have sort of got to have a good result. So I'll see what I got. Yeah, I'm not unfamiliar with trying to win a championship. It's just in a different series, and I'm ready to do one here in IndyCar.
Scott McLaughlin's been the guy to beat so far this year. Dave Burns is standing by with the guy who is the one to beat this afternoon here in Long Beach.
So far this weekend, it has been Colton Herta at the top, which is great because when you set a new track record in qualifying, it's a whole lot better starting position than what you had last year when you won. How do you like the view?
It sounds good, yeah. You know, you never know with this place, though. It's a long front straight to get the start off with, and we've seen multiple times it gets really crowded down there, and you can get in trouble. So I have a clean race, not worry about the start too much, and then take it as it comes.
Growing up here, what was it like to win last year? What would it mean to you and your family to get 2 in a row, Colton?
That would be awesome. I mean, the pole was amazing, right? I didn't get to do that last year, so that was an amazing feeling, and props to the team for giving me a car that was able to do that. But yeah, to go 2 in a row would just be fantastic. I miss that winning feeling, so I want to get back into it and get it going.
That's right. Once you experience it, Lee, you want it again, and Colton could get 2 in a row here at Long Beach today.
And Dave, what all of his competitors know all too well is that young man started 14th here. The one thing, Dave, that all of his competitors know is that he started 14th here late last year and drove to victory after leading more than half the laps in that race. So the question begs, can Colton Herta be beaten? So Townsend Bell, I turn to you to answer that.
He sure seems unstoppable right now, but I think somebody needs to poke Colton in the eye right in turn 1 on the first lap and try to rattle him a little bit, because last year at Long Beach, he came, like you said, from deep in the field, making bold moves on guys like Team Penske, Joseph Newgarden right here, and just sailed through to a dominant victory. But at Nashville, the other street circuit where Colton was super dominant last year, it was a different sort of story. He got mixed up early on with an unlucky situation with the yellow. He was the fastest car on track, and he made a devastating mistake trying to force his way back through the front. He overdrove. He told himself coming into this season, however, that calming himself and down in the moments is what it was going to take to win a championship. He showed that at St. Pete to start the season, but this is Long Beach. There's a lot on the line. He's got a fast car. If he stays up front, he'll be hard to beat, but you got to mix it up early.
Speaking about being up front, Hinch, Scott McLaughlin, pole position in St. Pete, won his first IndyCar race. A couple of weeks ago in Texas, he dominated the race, led the majority of the laps, only to be beaten in the closing feat by his teammate Joseph Newgarden. What's your thoughts on his progress today? He's starting further back than what he's used to this year.
He had a little problem in qualifying, got held up in traffic, didn't show the true pace of that car, but for me, Lee, this is really a great sign of what this team is going to be like in a championship battle. They've been running up front all season long. He's been first or second pretty much the entire season so far. Now he's going to be a little bit further back in the mix of it. This is when it's easier to make mistakes, when it's easier to have problems in pit lane, to make strategy calls that aren't right. So not just from the driver's standpoint, from the entire 3-team standpoint, I think today here in Long Beach, where they're starting with the pace they still have, is going to be a huge indicator if these guys are serious championship threats come the end of the season.
Seeing if he can hang on to the championship lead for 3 consecutive races in a row. Hey, we've got something new for you this year. You may remember it. It is for all IndyCar fans. It's the IndyCar Pick'em game on the NBC Sports Predictor app. You can win up to $25,000 by answering a handful of questions this week, including which former race winner will finish the highest. All right, T-Bell, take your pick, but you're not allowed to pick Colton Herta.
Well, it'd be the easiest and obvious choice. He's that good here right now at Long Beach. So if I can't have Herta, give me his teammate Alexander Rossi. Boy, does this guy need a result. He is in a hole big time, at the bottom of the points standings in the championship, but he's won here twice before. He's wicked fast. They share the same setup. James, what about you?
Townsend, it's a good guess, but I'm going to go with Will Power. He's a multi-time winner here. He knows how to get it done, and Will always used to say he'd qualify on pole, he'd get hosed by a yellow flag. It's better to be further in the back, take a bit of a bigger risk with strategy. When he qualifies 5th, 6th, 7th, he often ends up on the top. He's starting 7th today. He had the speed for the top 5, so I'm looking at this 12 crew to maybe take it to the top.
So there you go. That's what the boys think. How about what you think? And certainly get in amongst that competition. Hey, there's some Alexander Rossi fans. Oh, maybe some James Hinchcliffe fans as well.
Looks like some off-track fans, yeah.
Everybody's having a good time here at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach as we count it down to seeing the green flag fly.
Boy, the sights at Long Beach are just incredible. So nice to have it back on its normal date. Packed house and the fans enjoying a beautiful sunny Southern California day. So how did Long Beach become one of the crown jewels on the IndyCar calendar? Our Nate Ryan explains.
It's springtime in the streets of Long Beach again, renewing a Southern California tradition unlike any other.
There are few tracks in the world that are this close to the beach, and that's what makes this event so special.
A massive annual festival drawing hundreds of thousands to revel in sound, speed, and sunshine along Shoreline Drive in Long Beach.
You know about the SoCal vibe.
50 years ago it would have seemed inconceivable to bring high-end hospitality suites and state-of-the-art race technology to this port city that once was a blighted mess of dilapidated buildings and vacant streets. But founder Chris Pook had a vision to turn Long Beach into America's Monaco when he brought Formula One here in 1976. 8 years later, the arrival of IndyCar was christened by race winner Mario Andretti.
55,000 people cheer for Andretti, his first victory at Long Beach.
The first of many big names in Victory Circle. Al Unser Jr. is the king of the beach with 6 wins.
Al Unser Jr. scored his 6th win at Long Beach.
But the marquee event also has crowned many Indy 500 winners and series champions. And it has helped turn Long Beach into a crown jewel, buzzing with waterfront hotels, restaurants, and night spots. And now the Grand Prix back in its rightful spot of spring, blooming as the city and its beloved race have done for years.
Chip? Yeah, you don't have to look too far, do you, for a variety of reasons of why this event is a marquee event and is so special, so popular, not only for the fans, but for the drivers like Townsend and James Hinchcliffe. Hinch, for you, is there a specific moment? I know that's difficult to pinpoint it, but what is it that exudes special feelings for you?
You know, there is a lot of moments for me. I had a lot of career firsts here, but ultimately you got to go back to that win in 2017. Just knowing you accomplished something at a track like this with the history that we talked about, it is just so special. And for me, you have different wins throughout your career, but certain ones feel a little bit different. Yep. This place has that kind of feeling.
Townsend, you won here in Indy Lights. Was it that moment? Was it the time you saw your hero, Rick Mears? What is it for you?
Well, it's the atmosphere. When I first came here, I was 15 years old. I was overwhelmed just trying to figure out where the race cars were until I heard them. And that was the difference, was the sound. Reverberating off these concrete walls, and the contrast of the sound with the audience screaming and yelling and cheering. And then fast forward several years later, I had a chance to win a race here. This is me passing Dan Weldon for the win in turn 1 at Long Beach. And at that time, I'm living hand to mouth and desperate for a future in IndyCar. And boy, that really helped my chances winning that day. Everything seemed in order. The universe was in perfect symmetry that day under the sunshine as a California native.
And I think there's something about at Indianapolis Motor Speedway where you've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, but to be here because of the history, right, that's what makes it special.
It really is. We've talked about the number of drivers that have raced here over the years. There's been so many races held in the streets of Long Beach, whether it was Formula One races, IndyCar races, and yeah, adding your name to that list, it was just a little bit more special.
But guess who we haven't spoken about yet on IndyCar Live? That is that guy from Chip Ganassi Racing. That guy just happens to be the defending NTT IndyCar Series champion. We'll talk about Alex Palou when we come back. You're watching IndyCar Live, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only pay for what you need. And what the Arrow McLaren SP drivers need, they'd like a trophy, like the Vince Lombardi trophy that Nick Scott from the Rams, the Super Bowl champions, brought along with him when he met the two drivers, and wishing them well for a successful run here at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Somebody knows all about getting a big special trophy is Chip Ganassi Racing's Alex Palou. He's with Kevin Lee.
What a special moment last year for Alex Palou, winning the IndyCar Championship in just his 2nd season. So what are the emotions? What are the feelings coming back here for the first time since you won it last fall?
Oh man, such a special place for me, for all the 10 car, because we achieved here the championship last year, but yeah, we need to make it more special by trying to win the race today. So yeah, we have a good car, we have a good starting point. And we'll go for it. It's 85 laps, and we just have to overtake 2 cars.
And it's been a good start to the season as well, with 2nd and 7th place finishes. So from starting 3rd, how aggressive are you today?
We're going to be aggressive, obviously. Not crazy aggressive. We have, as I said, 85 laps in front of us. So we'll try and do the best we can today. We'll fight for the win as much as possible, and we'll get the best result we can for the 10 car.
The reigning champion, certainly one to watch today. 3rd in points, that's Alex Palou.
You know, Diff, when you look at Palou being interviewed just there with Kevin, it reminds me of the temperament that delivered that championship last year. The guy just turned 25 years old, massive box tick in his career. He's an IndyCar race winner. He's an IndyCar champion.
He's
calm, he's cool, he's collected, he's measured, he's methodical in his approach. He's the first driver to come along, I think, in 10, 15 years that threatens Scott Dixon's championship mentality that's delivered all those championships for Dixon. But at the other end of the story is Pato O'Ward. He's a young driver coming up through. They were battling it out, hinged for championship. He's a different kind of character.
And it's a very different position a year later from where Alex Palou sits in points versus Pato O'Ward. These two went down to the wire at this race last year, but Pato really not had the start to the season that he wants. This team struggled on the streets of St. Pete. They both had pace in Texas, but unforced errors in pit lane really hurt them, and this is going to be an important race for him to really try to kickstart his championship campaign.
It kind of got him off tilt at Texas there, where he hit one of his crew members. It was an unforced error after running so well, so he needs to rebound here. His teammate Felix Rosenquist has qualified well. Somebody who has had a rough run this weekend is 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champ, the Carvana Honda driver, Jimmie Johnson. This happened early in the weekend, and it didn't do well for him physically, Townsend.
Yeah, you saw him flexing his hand overnight. Got a carbon split for a fracture to the base of his right hand, and then straight away in practice on Saturday morning into the tires over at turn 1. Banging on the wheels, super frustrated. He said it had nothing to do with the hand injury, he just made another mistake. So Jimmie Johnson in a big hole. He will race today, albeit in some pain with the fracture on his right hand.
All right, let's hear from Jimmie Johnson. He's with Dave.
And Lee, let's just find out how much, first of all, Jimmie waved to the fans. How's the hand, and how much discomfort will you be in today?
I mean, I'm not at 100% in the car, but the partnership the drivers have with the medical crew here on the Entity IndyCar Series is pretty amazing. And Dr. Trammell was able to help work and build a splint that's worked and actually kind of reset the bone that's broken in my hand. And the crew here on site's done a great job of working with me and getting me able to run 85 laps today.
And what is your largest concern today? I understand you didn't change any button pushing or anything you had to do on the steering wheel, but what is your biggest concern as you handle this street course?
Just the constant abuse you take on a street course. It's tough enough when you have, you know, all your bones and fingers to use. I'm really just using 4 fingers on my right hand to shift and steer the car. And as anybody knows that sat in one of these, there's no power steering. They're very physical, and these tracks are super rough. So I think just fatigue at the end of the race and soreness is probably going to be the biggest thing. And then just kind of finding my groove. It's been a tricky couple of sessions. Been in the tires twice, trying to find that next step of speed, and just made a couple of mistakes in the process.
And then Lee, don't forget, in 10 days as he heals up, he'll get to test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that's the big goal this year for Jimmie.
And Dave, that's a great point, because Jimmie told us all yesterday that he was willing, Hinch, to take a pass on this event if his hand wasn't good enough to drive, because this isn't the focal point. His focal point is his very first Indianapolis 500. He didn't want to miss out on those training days coming up. So therefore, for the guy who grew up in Southern California, what's on the menu for him today? Just survival, just stick it out, just make it to the end?
A little bit of that, yeah. It's going to be a challenge, though. This is a bumpy, tough, physical racetrack. It's getting hotter and hotter as we stand here on the grid, Lee, so it's going to be tough for him to hang on to the grips, make sure he's calm and cool over the bumps, and more importantly, not make any mistakes. We've seen a couple small ones over this weekend. He really just needs 85 clean laps.
Townsend, his best result at Texas, 6th. It rocketed him to a tie for 10th in points with Romain Grosjean. We haven't spoken about the former F1 driver. How does he look this weekend for you?
I think he looks great. Andretti Autosport, as we've talked about with Colton Herta, is the measure of the field right now. They are the benchmark on performance, and this guy, Romain Grosjean, all smiles right now. He's on a big race team with lots of resources and a lot of speed here in Long Beach, and so far this weekend, he's the only one that seems to be close, if not equal, to Colton Herta on pace.
Yeah, the Andretti Autosport Hondas have plenty of speed here in Southern California on this beautiful sunny day as we get closer to going racing. IndyCar Live continues.
Hey, race fans, grab your mobile device and scan the QR code on your screen for a chance to win $25,000. Scan the code and register at HighVDeals.com for your chance to take home the big prize. You can do that all season long. Boy, the scenes here at Long Beach are just incredible. Parachuters coming in with the flag. It's time for pre-race ceremonies here from Long Beach.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the United States Army Color Guard from the Los Angeles Army Recruiting Battalion presents our nation's colors.
and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Closing in on the green flag for one of the biggest races on the IndyCar calendar. The champs ready to go. We'll crank the engines in Long Beach next.
It is the quintessential Southern California day for this round 3 of the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series. This is the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. A picture-perfect day to go racing right by the beach here in Long Beach. Just fantastic. Packed house, star-studded field, and so much on the line at this historic event. It is so good to be back.
This is the most important racetrack outside of the Indy 500 on the IndyCar schedule.
The greatest of the greats have won here.
There's the checkered flag for Mario Andretti.
Mario, you made it look so easy.
This is a day he's never going to forget. Victory lane at Long Beach.
Oh my God! Dude, you just won the Long Beach Grand Prix. I love you, buddy. Great job. Yeah, right! At the Long Beach Grand Prix! Yes! Woo!
This is just amazing. I can't believe I'm here though. It's so cool. I still can't believe we won here at Long Beach.
This has been on the bucket list for so long.
Just a Sunday afternoon drive on the streets of Long Beach.
It's time to write the latest chapter in the history of this storied event.
If your name happens to be on that winners list here at Long Beach, it evokes the feeling of, I have made it. It is truly one of the best events in the history of IndyCar. And here we go, back at the traditional date, ready to roll for the third round of the championship. And ready to roll is Dave Burns. Take it away.
And Lee, if any day could be the day ready to roll for Alexander Rossi, it could be today. After a disappointing start to this season, he qualified 5th on this track where he's won 2 times. And if you remember, the last 10 races have been awful for this 7-time winner in the series. 2-time winner here at Long Beach. Can today be the turnaround day for Alexander Rossi? We'll see, Kevin Lee.
Dave, 3 weeks ago, Joseph Newgarden pulled off a daring last lap pass to win on the Super Speedway at Texas Motor Speedway. And the Nashville, Tennessee native is starting on the front row here this weekend, trying to do one spot better than what he's done the last 2 races on the beach when he finished 2nd. And he's got a lot more on his mind. His wife, Ashley, is due to deliver their first baby within the next week. So a win today might bring a pretty quick victory celebration before he heads back home. Now to Marty Snyder.
Hey, Kevin, when 6-time series champ Scott Dixon qualified 16th yesterday, he told us that's completely unacceptable. We have to be better. So this morning for warm-up, they were better. They worked so hard overnight changing the setup on this 9 car, and even though he starts 16th, Scott Dixon comes into this race with a little bit more confidence this morning than he had yesterday afternoon. 6 times, Diff, this race has been won starting outside of the top 10. Scott Dixon hoping to make it 7.
He described himself as angry yesterday with the way that qualifying went down, so he's looking to return to victory lane here today, but it's going to be a little tougher from where he is starting from. There are 17 events on the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series calendar. That's pretty much the same each and every year, but this feels like a standalone event. It is very similar feeling to the Indianapolis 500. What does it for you, Townsend?
It has atmosphere. I mean, it has huge crowds, especially this weekend after taking a year off or 2 years off from the traditional dates.
we're back in April in Long Beach. Celebrities, sunshine, boats, fans, and speed, and it just is an awesome location for a motor race. And because it's been around so long, James, like you said earlier, it's the premier race outside of the Indy 500.
It really is, and it's such an event. I mean, you see the packed grandstands, you see the beautiful scenery. What I love about this event is the whole city really, really gets behind it. Jim McKillian and his crew here have done an incredible job. You go out from a Thursday night, the streets are packed, the restaurants are overflowed, there's pit stop competitions, there's stunt bikes going, flipping through the air, and that's all before we ever get back to the racetrack and see what these IndyCar drivers are going to do today.
So it's not all plain sailing here by the beach, that is for sure. We want to take you to some trouble spots that have caused some heartburn for some of the drivers this weekend. We start with Turn 5.
Yeah, Turn 5 has really been given some heartache. You see Pato O'Ward gets a little sideways, but the big hit early on was Jimmy Johnson, who kept his hands on the steering wheel a little too long. That's what led to the broken hand. That was Dalton Kellett. David Malukas just narrowly avoids the wall. Graham Rahal here with a huge save. Keeps it off the fence. There's a really tricky apex curb in Turn 5, and then it's off camber at the exit. But James, on the other side of the track, there's always drama in the hairpin.
It's the famous hairpin, one of the most iconic corners on our calendar, and it's 25 to 30 miles an hour apex speed, the slowest corner, which means you can have traffic jams here. This is where we saw Pato O'Ward's championship hopes die last year. We've seen full track blockages here in the past. It's always a topic in the drivers' meeting coming here to Long Beach, so definitely look for some late lunges and potentially some spun race cars right here in Turn 11.
Hey fellas, if you base it off qualifying speed and just his whole weekend overview, you would say that Colton Herta is the man to beat. Who's going to do it? But is there anybody else who grabs your attention that you would like to pick or that you think might feature today?
Well, go ahead.
Honestly, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I think if anyone can beat Colton, which I do think is a tall order, it's going to be Will Power. These guys right here, he's had a whole different mentality this year, a lot calmer. He's been knocking off positions. He's second in the points right now, but I think he can do it. He's won here twice. He's just outside the Fast Six. He could potentially play some good strategy here. I think he's got the pace. He's got the know-how. I think these guys can do it if anyone can.
I mean, here's the reality. Talking to a few of the drivers in the paddock this morning, they know Colton Herta is almost unstoppable right now on pace, on pure pace. But you can't use that pace if somebody gets in front and Colton Herta on the start. So I think you're going to see these drivers, Lee, go for it here in Turn 1. Try to poke him in the eye early and see if they can mix it up, get in his head.
And that run down shoreline drive, as Colton said himself, is long. To that left-hand first turn, it has been a trouble spot over the years. We're getting close to going, so let's go trackside for the command.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome the president of the Long Beach Convention Visitors Bureau, Mr. Steve Goodling.
Drivers, start your engines.
It's that moment we wait for each and every race weekend in the NTT IndyCar Series. The engines are fired. It's time to go racing. The talk stops. The racing starts when we come back. NBC's coverage of IndyCar is brought to you by Acura, precision crafted performance. Liberty Mutual Insurance, only pay for what you need. And by NTT, official sponsor and technology partner of the NTT IndyCar Series. If you're just joining us, welcome to NBC Sports coverage of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Let's take you to the Acura starting grid to see who starts where. Colton Herta, his 8th career pole position, and he starts alongside the formidable Joseph Newgarden. Will this be a drag race down to Turn 1, and they'll arm wrestle over that lead at the very first turn? We'll find out.
Oh, absolutely going to be a battle in Turn 1, especially with 2021 champion Alex Palou right behind Colton Herta. He's in a Honda. Rosenquist in that 7 car in a Chevy, just like Newgarden. So it's Honda Chevy in perfect column form.
Potentially some fireworks down in row 3 with the teammates, Alexander Rossi and Roman Grosjean. And then, of course, a 2-time winner in Marcus Ericsson, who's had a really steady season so far in row 4.
Looking back to row 6, here's a guy that needs a result today. Pato O'Ward was absolutely on pace for a championship last year until Long Beach. He got taken out early on in this race. now to start this 2022 season, Award just needs a strong result.
And down in 20th position, row 10, Jack Harvey making his return to the cockpit after sitting out the Texas round because of a practice crash. Looking forward to seeing what he can do today.
As we told you, with that injured hand, Jimmy Johnson starts in the 13th and final row alongside the returning Tatiana Calderon, one of half a dozen rookies on this year's championship. And leading the field today here in Long Beach is the official pace car of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and this is the 2022 Acura NSX Type S. All right, let's get you straight to the Honda track preview. What do we need to look for?
Well, what you need to look for, I think, is track surface here. There's sealer that's been laid down new over 2021 and has led to record pace around this track. Colton Herta setting the outright qualifying record by over a second yesterday. So I think the grip is obviously a lot higher because they're turning quicker lap times, but does that mean more tire degradation? So thanks to Honda, we're riding on board with Colton Herta coming down to turn 6, and this, James, is one of the areas where the drivers have reported a lot more traction.
A lot more traction, slightly reprofiled corner, but I think that more grip means more cornering speed, means more narrow margin for error. I think that's why we've seen so many drivers clip the wall, and this might be a race of attrition this afternoon.
This is a passing opportunity onto the back straightaway. You go under a couple of bridges here. You got to fight the shadows for visibility. In years past, Lee, we've seen a lot of blocking, a lot of defensive driving, occasionally some penalties as the elbows are out and everybody gets really aggressive on defending position.
We know that athletes are achieving more and more at a younger and younger age, but can you imagine growing up in Southern California? You're just 22, your dad, who was a famed driver, is on the pit box talking to you, and you're leading an IndyCar field to green on home soil. That's the situation for Colton Herta in the Gainbridge Honda as the field pack up through turn 11, side by side, ready to go. The Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach 2022.
Get ready. Green.
Colton Herta wastes no time, drops the hammer, and just dumps Newgarden. And look at Palou fighting for position. What does Newgarden do here in the brake zone?
Rosenquist trying to decide which way to go. Almost 3 wide from Alexander Rossi. 2 by 2 through turn 1. So far, so good as they head into the fountain.
Rosenquist in that blue and orange, that papaya McLaren machine did really well to fend off Alexander Rossi, who was forceful. So Herta, then Newgarden, Palou, Rosenquist, Rossi, Marcus Ericsson, and Romain Grosjean. All good starts.
And Joseph Newgarden in that white and black Hitachi car must be thinking, oh no, Colton Herta already getting away. Further back, Newgarden's teammates with McLaughlin and Will Power, black and red Team Penske cars, but Palou on the back of Newgarden. But that gap, James, already opening up. I mean, Herta unstoppable at Long Beach this weekend.
Just an incredible first lap pace from Colton Herta. I was talking to some of these drivers as we see some action down into turn 9. Scott Dixon looking at Rinus VeeKay. Some of the drivers saying this new sealant a little trickier when the tires are cold, but once it's up to speed, we've got that grip. But so far, so good on this first lap. Everyone's playing nice. Though statistically speaking, 7 out of the last 9 races have had a yellow in the first 10 laps. So hang on.
Climb on board. Graham Rahal, they're running 13th at the moment in that Quartz engine oil machine. Look at Rossi in the pink and blue. The Auto Nation Napa Auto Parts Honda for Andretti Autosport. As Townsend said in the pre-race show, desperate for a good result. The 2-time Long Beach winner today has to be that day.
And he won't like seeing his teammate Colton Herta pull away because it'll make Rossi feel like I need to get going. I need to pass some cars because our cars, the Andretti cars, are fast. I just need clean air. So there's urgency right now, I think, for Rossi to try to make something happen.
You know, he was on a very quick lap in qualifying when that red flag came out for Romain Grosjean in turn 5. He thinks he could have been up on the front row alongside Colton Herta to make that more of a fair fight, but I can see already, I think he's playing the long game. He's taking care of his tires a little bit. He doesn't want to carry too much speed, go too close to Felix Rosenquist and get in that dirty air. Dave, what do you have down in the pits?
Hinch, as we stay with this AutoNation onboard, you see Rossi navigating this 11-turn course that he's won at 2 times. So I asked Alexander after warming the car up today, this morning on the track, do you have the same feel as when you won twice here? Kind of got a sly grin. He said, it's there. We've just got to get to the front.
Lead advantage, 1.2 seconds. That has been stable for some time now for Colton Herta over Joseph Newgarden. The bright blue NTT car is Alex Palou. Then Felix Rosenquist, who is having a much better start to this season than he did last year.
He is, Dim. The pace has been good, but I've noticed on these opening laps from Rosenquist, he's struggling a bit with rear traction. There's been several moments of pretty significant oversteer as he's fighting to hang on to the balance. Not sure if that's just low pressure or if they're just set up a little too loose for these early stages.
Not going to give any results away, but for those of you who haven't watched the Australian Formula One Grand Prix, I'll go as far as saying this. It was a good day for the McLaren organisation. So Felix Rosenqvist flying the flag for the Arrow McLaren SP team here in California, trying to continue that trend.
As I'm looking at this, I'm looking at Scott McLaughlin, who was the first driver to start on the primary black sidewall Firestone tires. A little less grip, a little more durable in that than compared to the red sidewalled alternate tires. But I think that's going to be the preferred tire, Townsend. The red, from what I hear from the drivers up and down pit lane, is going to be the one to use. So by getting this black tire stand out of the way early, he's going to be able to go red-red and might have an advantage in the middle part of this race.
You have to run a new set of each compound by rules in the race, and McLaughlin's concern was the start. He's like, as long as I can hold position, I think we're in pretty good shape. He's done that. We're right on board with the snap-on number 3 here. McLaughlin has survived that start, Marty, so now he can put his head down and know that he's in really good shape tire-wise for the balance of this race.
And remember, an engine change for the championship leader. He did radio in on lap 1. Everything feels so good. So far, so good for Scott McLaughlin. And you mentioned those primary tires, Hinch, and you were talking about it as well, Townsend. He said, yes, if I can just hold where I am, I'll feel good about that. And he said, I actually think, Townsend, as run goes on, I might be a little bit better than those guys on the red tires, the alternate tires, and I can maybe gain some ground. So managing early on, McLaughlin feeling good about the engine, also feeling good about holding the spot where he started.
Yeah, the truth is nobody up and down this field has enough laps on the reds yet to know what's going to happen towards the end of a stint. A stint is about 25 to 30 laps, depending on how you play it here. 85 laps in total, so we expect almost everybody to stop twice to make it comfortably to the end. So we're going to find out in another 20 laps or so what those red tires are really like in the heat of the day.
And you saw that graphic to the left of your screen there. It said that 17 of the drivers started on the softer sidewall tires, 9 on the black sidewall. A lot of those drivers were further back in the field. They figured they're not as vulnerable starting further back in the field. Let's get those primary tires out of the way. But real quick, I just want to touch on that engine change Marty was talking about. He didn't get the chance to do an install check on this car. When you put a new engine in these cars, Townsend, you're not allowed to just turn it up to full song right away. These things are very complex, computer controlled. They have to acclimatize to the conditions. So these first couple laps, I guarantee you Scott McLaughlin's team is on the radio to him saying, all right, let's slowly turn this thing up and find its sweet spot. But that's in race conditions. It's very tough to do.
Diff, he might be a little unfamiliar with missing most of the warm-up this morning and not being fully in tune on out and in laps, but what he is in tune on is leading a championship. Yes. Scott McLaughlin is no rookie when it comes to running at the front of very challenging international series like he did for so many years.
3-time Supercars champ in Australia, leads this championship for the second consecutive round. Will it be that way at the end of 85 laps today? This race that is being controlled by Colton Herta, more than 2 seconds out in front. Carvana is giving racing fans a behind-the-scenes look at Jimmie Johnson's second season in IndyCar. You can catch every turn as you follow him to the finish line in the docuseries Reinventing the Wheel, now streaming at carvana.com/racing. Just look at this spectacular day that we're all enjoying just a little south of Los Angeles here in Long Beach, right on the water. And as you may have seen in non-stop, unfortunately, the K-Line Insulators Chevrolet for AJ Foyt Racing, Dalton Kellett, slammed into the tire barriers. Hinch, he is out of this race.
Almost by the time he came into the camera view, he already had that inside front locked up, Joe. Just a little bit too much speed in, a little bit too hard on the brake pedal there, and yeah, an unfortunate end of the day for the number 4 car. That's a good lick. That's a pretty quick corner, Townsend.
So tricky in turn 1. When you know you're over the limit, it's way too late. There's just nothing that you can do to recover at that point. The decision to take the runoff straight ahead comes so early in that corner, and of course you're coming from top speed off shoreline, 175, 180 miles an hour down to about 55 at the apex. So just got it wrong there.
While that's not a positive story, I do want to say something for Dalton Kellett, and maybe for you folks watching at home, your children are involved in a STEM program of sorts at their respective schools. Dalton does some incredible work. He's an engineer himself, does some incredible work around the country with STEM students, giving back.
He's also done a really cool series on TikTok recently explaining from an engineering standpoint some of the intricacies of different components of the Indy cars, and it's been, I mean, I've learned stuff from him. It's actually been fun to watch.
AMR safety team doing what they do best, that is making things safe for the drivers and the track workers here, ready to get going again as soon as we can. This first full course yellow just kind of evaporating and robbing Colton Herta of that 2+2.5 second lead that he had established very swiftly over Joseph Newgarden. Here he is.
I mean, he was lapping half a second a lap faster than Joseph Newgarden at that point. Already, like you said, a 2.5 second lead. That was incredible. So, I mean, we're going to look for him to do the exact same thing off the top of this restart, but cautions do breed cautions. We talked at the top about how we've seen a caution the first 10 laps in the last 7 of the last 9 races here. We've got another one, and we will see if people start getting a little adventurous into turn 1.
And just think about it. That's Colton Herta early on in the first stint. With some maturity now, a few years into his IndyCar career. Last year he showed what he's really angry fast, what he's capable of pace-wise. So somebody's going to have to get a race car in front of Colton Herta and slow him down here.
How about this, fellas? I was chatting with Joseph Newgarden yesterday, and I said, I'm sure you're still bathing in the sunshine from Texas, that last lap, last moment victory. He said, you know what? I have never had a race win like that in my career. Just storming around his teammate Scott McLaughlin in the closing yards to capture that victory. He said maybe in my junior years, but I can't remember it. He said it was exhilarating. Tough to do against your teammate, but everybody's a competitor. Look at Colton Herta in that yellow and black Cambridge Honda. He's not messing around, and he's not holding around. He's gone already. Restart here in Long Beach.
SoCal Buddy says, later, dudes, I'm out. He drops the hammers. There's a lot of chaos because you can start racing as soon as you hear green on the radio and the hairpin. You can go side by side.
And that's normally when we see a disaster, and luckily everyone's made it through here. There was a gentleman's agreement a few years ago to not actually pass. Scott Dixon maybe looks to try to make 2 passes there. He gets around Rinus VeeKay, but there was a talk about no passing in the hairpin on those restarts to avoid a track blockage. Clearly that discussion was not had this year.
Let's be clear, ever since you left, there are no gentlemen left in IndyCar, okay? Those days are over.
I think there was some frustration seeping and creeping into Scott Dixon's world with Rinus VeeKay. He's able to get around the young Dutch driver and jump up ahead and move on, but it's unfamiliar territory for Dixon in 15th place.
Grosjean's looking hungry back there in that yellow and red DHL car. Marty, what do you know about Scott Dixon?
Well, Lee is right that Dixon was not happy with VeeKay on that first run. A couple of times kind of blocked him, got in his way, but Dixon hungry to get through the field. And, you know, Townsend, I'm sure you've had this before, kind of car off all weekend, not quite what you wanted or not what you expected in qualifying. And then in warm-up, you change everything and it comes to life. So Dixon feels like he can finish top 5 today, but it's frustrating coming up through the field when you're starting 16.
Well, the way Dixon just carved through that hairpin, you can tell the front end on that PNC car is working really well. Tremendous front grip from the hands of Dixon. There's Connor Daly looking to make a move on his teammate VeeKay in that purple and blue car. There's action all the way through the field right now, Hinch.
Yeah, it looks like Graham Rahal had to use a bit of his push to pass to keep Scott Dixon behind. Graham, one of the few drivers that's on the black sidewall tires, Scott on the red, so he definitely had the advantage coming off the corner, but Graham quick to the button to keep the 9 car behind.
Check out the damage on Rinus VeeKay. His whole nose cone is hanging off. I guess it's just gone.
So that's a turn 11 issue for sure. Here you go, inside of, who is that on?
Graham Rahal, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And got into the back of the Meyer Shank car there.
I think that was Castro Neves he got in the back of.
Sure was.
And then off the tip of the nose, and then there's some kind of electronic sensor hanging out of. That's a radio cord.
Could be the pitot tube. They use a sensor at the front to sort of detect the wind that the car's facing.
One thing's for sure, he's benefiting from enhanced cooling coming through the tub at this point. That's not a bad thing.
Reduced aerodynamics, but enhanced cooling.
So, just like that, Colton Herta has re-established a 1.2 second lead over Joseph Newgarden. Not hanging about, taken off yet again. Newgarden, Palou, Rosenquist, Rossi, Ericsson, Grosjean, Power, McLaughlin in 9th, and Pagenaud in the top 10 for Meyer Shank Racing. So it comes back to what we were talking about in IndyCar Live, the pre-race show. Can anybody catch Colton Herta? Certainly not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Lap 12 complete. I think we'll see the leaders pit probably around lap 30 or so, especially with those few laps of yellow. But let's take a look at some new technology that NTT's introduced for this year, the strategy prediction powered by NTT. There's 2 strategies they've analyzed, Hinch. And listen, I was pretty good at math at school, but, you know, I'm going to go with option 2.
Yeah, but you look at it, option 2 is starting on blacks, or sorry, going to blacks in the middle and then going to reds for the final stint. That really depends on what you started on as well. So this is going to be different for different cars, but ultimately the 2-stopper is going to be the hot ticket here.
Yeah, for sure. With 85 laps and about 30 some odd laps per stint, makes it pretty simple to split it. You're going to try to stretch it to about lap 30, get to about lap 60 to get home, maybe a little earlier if you want to take a chance.
I talked to a few engineers who said that, well, it's, you know, in a quote-unquote easy 2-stopper, it's a little bit more difficult this year because of how much faster the cars are going. These lap times are so quick, the motors are working harder, they're burning more fuel to do it. So it's a little trickier. I think we're going to hear a little bit of fuel saving on these cars, but if we get one more good caution, that'll go out the window.
And Diff, a lot of it depends on what you're experiencing in terms of tire degradation. You're getting a read in this run, and this is really the first chance for all of these drivers in true race conditions to understand what tire deg looks like. That's going to determine how you split up those pit stops as well, not just fuel range.
And varying surface structure as well, because you see this area here really dark, very black. That's because the drift cars were here. That's a traditional thing here at Long Beach. They were here a week ago. There's a lot of rubber left on the racing surface from the drift cars. There's 2 sections on the track that have a sealant on them. That's something new. And then there's a new patch of asphalt in between turn 6 and turn 8. So there's varying surfaces, if you wish, that they have to deal with.
And those are all just changes from last year. And there's already a ton of different surfaces on this racetrack.
Let's talk more about the 10 of Alex Palou. Here's Dave Burns. Dave?
And when Hinch says last year, Lee, he means just a few months ago, because when Alex Palou came here in September, it was a different racetrack, but he walked in with a championship in mind. He was the leader. He had a chance to take home the championship victory. And he said, when I came in there, I came in with a purpose. But this weekend, my purpose is a little different. Yeah, we walked away with a championship trophy, but we didn't win the race. That's what the driver of the 10 wants to do today, Kevin.
Dave, an argument could be made that Marcus Ericsson's number 8 car has been the best of the Ganassi cars more often than not so far this season. He should have finished better than the 9th he had at St. Pete. He had a pit road penalty, finished 3rd at Texas, and has been strong throughout the weekend. And he told me before the race, the car is awesome on blacks and reds. He is dealing with a little bit of understeer right now, but he picked up 2 at the start of the race, Marty.
Yeah, but there's no doubt Colton Herta has the pace to dominate the race here in Long Beach today. There's also no doubt that automobile racing is a team sport. Colton Herta knows that better than anyone. In both of the first 2 races this year, on the final stop of the day, Colton Herta's team had a rough stop. At St. Pete, they didn't get the car full enough. Then at Texas, they left a left front off, couldn't get it on, and they also didn't get the car full enough on that stop, so Colton could not attack in either one of those races. Colton said he didn't beat down on his guys, didn't go yell at him. He said they're beating themselves up enough. They know how to do their job. They've been practicing 5 days a week. I'm going to let them do their job today and trust it'll get done correctly. So Hinch, how have you handled those situations in the past when your crew maybe has let you down on a couple of back-to-back races? How do you manage it with your guys?
Well, it's like you said, this is the ultimate team sport, and you've got to be that team leader. You've got to keep morale up. You know that they're supporting you when you make a mistake on the racetrack, and you've got to support them the same way if there's a mistake in pit lane. So I'm very confident that Colton and his guys have talked about it. They've rallied together. Colton's doing his job today on the racetrack. I fully expect to be a turnaround in the pit lane for the 26 guys as well.
There's Brian Herta, Colton's father, who you hear on the radio to the 22-year-old Californian. Great mutual respect between Herta, not only his dad, but the entire crew, and they're on a winner today. The world's biggest music event comes to NBC, a state versus state showdown to find America's next hit song. American Song Contest, Monday on NBC, and next day on Peacock. And no, I'm not going to ask either of you to sing, as we appreciate this beautiful aerial coverage from our friends at Geico on this most magnificent day for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. So, we know who's up front. Colton Herta leading by just over 1.5 seconds. How about Jimmy Johnson in the Carvana Honda? It has been a rough, rugged and painful weekend for the second-year IndyCar driver, his first full season. And if you're just turning on and you hadn't heard the news, this is what happened to Jimmy earlier in the weekend.
Yeah, turn 5 just cased the bottom of the car, taking too much apex curve there. Right there, boom! High centers it straight into the wall. Doesn't get his hands off the wheel, which led to the fracture in his hand. And then James, I mean, from bad to worse, practice 2, ready to get out there and see what he can do, and then this happens.
Just a little bit too much speed into turn one. He's been working on the brake zones, trying to roll that speed through, still trying to improve himself every time he goes out on track. That's what's so impressive about this guy. As we come up to turn 5 where you hit those curves, and man, when we hit them, you hit them like that, they hit the bottom of the car towns and they launch you up. It's like driving a shopping cart over a speed bump. It just, you feel everything through the seat, up through your spine. It's very uncomfortable, and that's before you hit the wall.
Yeah, and when the car comes back on the ground, the front end can load up a lot. So even when you're not crashing, there's a lot of heave, a lot of hop in the car around Long Beach, and that's where he's probably really going to feel it in that right hand.
Remember, April 20 and 21.
Rear bar, it's pretty soft here. You just go up in a small increment. Just feel it out for that mid
Look
corner.
out, here we go. On the inside, Alexander Rossi on Felix Rosenqvist. This is the closest we've seen for a pass in a while, and Rossi is setting up the Swedish driver.
I really thought Rossi was going to just continue to force the issue there. I talked earlier about how Rosenqvist appeared to be struggling a bit on his rear tires, and there he locks the right front going into turn 5. Rossi all over the back. Rossi needs a result, but he also needs to finish, James. He cannot afford to go out with contact or go backwards with any contact. He has a winning race car today.
He certainly can't have a mishap. He can't afford that. Felix Rosenqvist is enjoying a resurgence in form so far in the last couple of events without the results to prove it, so he wants a good result too, an impressive move to hold on, but Alexander Rossi is tracking him. It's going to be tough to keep the 27 behind.
If there's 7 seconds in front of Rosenqvist to Alex Palou, that's why Rossi needs to make it happen now. He sees Ericsson and Grosjean and the Penske boys of Power and McLaughlin stacking up, and Rossi's like, it's time to go. I need to get in front of this guy.
He's in a Swedish sandwich right now with Marcus Ericsson behind. Here we go. In the draft, heading down to 1. Is Rossi close enough this time? Will he be more desperate? Yes, he is! They collide! Is there any damage to Rosenqvist's Arrow McLaren Chevy?
Is there any damage to Rossi's car on the side? In order for Rossi to make that work, he had to brake pretty deep, and I think he couldn't make the turn until he wound up his car a little bit. Meanwhile, Rosenqvist was out of room, and he said, I need to turn now. We'll have to take another look at that, but
right
luckily,
well done.
Rossi looks to be okay for now.
He came from so far back. Felix Rosenqvist would have gotten dirt on his tires going that wide, so Will Power's able to get around him as we go back on board with Rossi. He's in the neighborhood, but man, did he have to brake late. Locks up the tire a little bit, can't turn, forces him into Felix, and then that exposes Alexander Rossi to Marcus Ericsson, who's just able to fend off.
So in bottom screen, Rosenqvist is dropping. He is flailing, and expect to see him dive for the pits here in a second, because it's not happening. He's got his teammate now, Pato Award, all over the back of him. Another replay up there.
Yeah, another replay of it. I don't know that Rosenqvist can afford to dive into the pits. I saw Dixon just dump in on lap 22, which is awfully early, but that's what you do if you have the best fuel saver in the business. You take a gamble, and that's what Dixon just did. Meanwhile, Rossi's car, the contact was on the right-hand side pod. I can't even see any evidence of it. It looks like Rossi's just fine. And pulling away from Ericsson a bit, Marty, and closing up that gap to Palou.
Yeah, Townsend, you mentioned the incredible fuel savings that Scott Dixon can provide while still providing pace inside the car. So they're pitting here at lap 21 or 22 on the board going now. So, yes, you can make it from here. Going to mean maybe a little bit of help from caution, but if anyone can do it, it's Scott Dixon. Meanwhile, Felix Rosenqvist absolutely just hanging on to that car. They told him, hey, bud, you got to hang on for 5 more laps if you can. Way too free in that 7 car, Dave.
You heard the radio to Alexander Rossi. Good job. And isn't that, as we see the pass now between McLaren teammates, Pato Award gets around Felix Rosenqvist as Rosenqvist continues to go backwards. But Rossi, that's just where his world is right now, isn't it, guys? He needs to win. It's been 39 races since Rossi's 7th and last win in IndyCar, and he needs to make something happen fast. He was told today by strategist Brian Barnhart to the whole team, today the season starts for the 27. It needs to.
He's more than 8 seconds away from Alex Palou in 3rd place, but he's got that nice clean air. But he's being dogged by Marcus Ericsson in the Husky Chocolate Honda for Chip Ganassi Racing.
I'll tell you what, Marcus Ericsson, James, you've talked about this. I just noticed so much more aggression and confidence in Ericsson. We always call him a bit of a sleeper as Rinus VK, Marty, is on pit lane, but just Ericsson, he just looks aggressive. He looks hungry. He looks confident that he can make moves with the best in the business. It's been pretty impressive, his run.
Yeah, I mean, he's really just been on form this year. It's been impressive to watch. He was very happy when he made the switch to Chip Ganassi Racing. He got his first 2 wins of his IndyCar career last season, and he came in this year just with a quiet confidence. We don't talk a lot about him. We haven't talked a lot about him, but he was the guy in St. Pete. He was the top Ganassi car in Texas as well, and now he is just really on track for potentially another podium.
Kyle Kirkwood in the Rocket Chevy for AJ Foyt Racing, the rookie. He's the highest placed rookie. He makes a move there, and he's knocking on the door of the top 10. Here comes Felix Rosenqvist. The answer's the question. He could not hang on for those additional 5 laps. He needs to come to the pits, Marty.
Yeah, and Diff, I wonder how much is this going to change their strategy. Billy Vincent told him on the radio, his strategist said, hey, I'd love for you to get those 6 laps that we mentioned a moment ago. He got 4 more out of Felix, and he said, no, Moss, I've got to come in, get those alternate tires off. Going to go to primaries here for Felix Rosenqvist, who's always so good on the street courses, all that experience in Formula E over the years. Look at that wing change on the front, trying to tighten up that machine.
Yeah, that's how loose Felix Rosenqvist was. That was as many handfuls of front wing as they could take out of it, Hinch, without losing more time on pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been competitive on street circuits in the past. Last year, he was, I think, on course to win the race in Detroit before the mechanical failure set him into the wall, ultimately cost him a race in itself. He had to sit out a race because of an injury.
Look at Ericsson. Ericsson is right there.
He's setting him up. This is Andretti Autosport versus Chip Ganassi Racing. Rossi versus Ericsson.
And Rossi's burned a lot more push to pass because Alex needed it to get around Felix. Here we go.
And making that Napa Auto Nation Honda very, very wide. Ericsson looked one way, looked the other. There was no option.
The good thing about that move from Rossi, what I like about that is he didn't go so far offline to the inside that he got his tires dirty. He was still kind of just on the clean part of the racetrack. He was going to force Marcus Ericsson to get his tires dirty, but into turn 6, Marcus Ericsson goes down the inside and executes a beautiful pass on Alexander Rossi.
And he couldn't argue any longer. You know what? At this exact lap in this race late last year, these 2 guys were fighting each other really, really hard. It ended up with Ericsson in the tire wall. He dislocated his thumb and couldn't go any further.
As Ericsson starts to flex some pace in that Chip Ganassi car, I can't help but think, what are the lap times Scott Dixon is doing right now? He's all on his own in clean air. Scott Dixon just did a 1:08.3. Colton Herta, the leader, about a 1:08.0. So Dixon is saving fuel but has clean air with a great race car. Don't count out Scott Dixon today. Here comes Grosjean on his teammate Rossi.
How defensive is Alex going to get? Pretty defensive. He moves him over there, but there's nothing he's going to be able to do from here. Grosjean's going to go through cleanly. I wonder if there is some residual damage, maybe a slightly bent front end from that contact.
Or did Rossi just have to burn up so much of his tire trying to get around Rosenqvist? Because when you're in turbulent air, you don't have the downforce. You're relying on mechanical tire grip that much more.
Hey,
and now Rossi's got his hands full. What's up, Dave?
So I think it is the latter. I think it's what you just said about Rossi, because he has not reported any damage, but as soon as he got passed by Rosenqvist, he radioed the crew, I'm dying out here. 2 to 4 more laps before he comes in.
Now he's fallen into the clutches of the Team Penske duo. Will Power is up first in the Verizon 5G Chevy, then Scott McLaughlin. Remember who was the first in the field to start on the primary, the harder compound Firestone tires. So expect him to go a little longer. We'll see how this works out for McLaughlin as we ride with Power.
Just going back to your point, Townsend, Scott Dixon is now the fastest man on track. Clean air is king around the streets of Long Beach as we see a car peel off to the pits in front of Power, but Scott Dixon is putting those black tires to good use, that clean air to good use. It'll be interesting to see where he cycles out as Alex Rossi is in pit lane, Dave.
Hinch, I think it was the I'm dying phrase that had him come earlier than they thought. Brian Barnhart calling him in. He will go to the primary Firestone Blacks now as he leads pit road. Little wing change as well.
I know some teams like to have code words for the varying levels of degradation the drivers are experienced. Dag 1, Dag 2, Dag 3. Dag 3 being, I think, translated to I'm dying. I don't think he needed any code words for that one.
So up front, we've been talking a lot about Colton Herta, untouchable. He's the man to beat. The margin between Herta and Newgarden has remained very consistent, anywhere between 1.2 and 1.5 seconds. So is that Herta controlling the race, or is it Newgarden just keeping Herta where he wants him?
I think it's the former. I think it's Colton Herta, wise beyond his years, knowing that, hey, a yellow could come at any time. There's no reason to try to go drive 10/10ths right now. I've got this under control for now, and all I want to do is maintain a nice, comfortable gap. Dave? What do you think?
What a nice run for the reigning champion. Palou in now. He will get unused black tires this race out, and Palou's gone. No touches to the wall. Nice and smooth. Gives up third place to take on these tires and fuel.
Yeah, those tires will just be scuffed. He will have just done an out lap and warm up to kind of take the shine off, as Pato O'Ward is now in the pits. Kevin Lee.
And I thought I just heard him say the engine cut out in the hairpin. They're coming in, going from the alternate Firestones to the primary black sidewalls, turning to half the front wing, and Pato O'Ward is back out. And they'll hope that all is okay.
Phenomenal amount of wing on that stop. That was a big adjustment. So both McLaren cars having to make big wing adjustments from the harder primary black sidewall tires to the softer red sidewall tires.
We've added the front wing and the pressure.
And this is such an important key part of the race, Townsend. These in and out laps on this pit cycle is everything. Where you come out on track in terms of being in traffic or clean air. We see the blue flag on the right-hand side. He's going to come up behind Alexander Rossi, but getting these Firestones up to temperature, getting around this racetrack as quickly as possible during these pit sequences can make you so much track position.
Super treacherous right here, turn 5, listen. Nice and smooth. I was looking for any big snaps, but Pato O'Ward aired on the side of caution right there. Really easy on an out lap on cold fronts to skid the car, skip the front end, and potentially get into the fence. Now he's building temperature, feeling pretty comfortable as he gets to the backside of the track.
There's more takers on pit road. Simon Pagenaud is one of them.
It's been a solid weekend for Simon Pagenaud. Diff going to the primary tires here. Very happy with the speed. They lose a wheel nut on the right front. They're trying to point at it. They're saying don't go. And at the same time, Colton Herta is going to come down pit road here. I see 2 wheel nuts that came off the 60. We'll have to keep an eye on that car.
Well, that got flicked out the back as he lit it up. It went flying towards one of the team members. There was an incident on pit road yesterday in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race between Corvette and Porsche, where an errant wheel nut was flung up into the FAF Porsche. It knocked its radiator out and took that car out of the race. Expecting race leader in, here he is, Colton Herta in the lane.
Just an absolute dominant performance from Colton Herta. Led 28 laps to this point. Important to note, Newgarden stays out 1 more lap. That'll be an advantage for them. You see that wing adjustment? They're going to scuffed primary tires, meaning they worked them in this morning. That should help this out lap for the 26, Dave.
Brand new primary tires for Romain Grosjean in the yellow 28. Also had a wing adjustment there. As they add those tires hinch, they need to make that adjustment when they go from the used tires to the fresh tires.
Yeah, and also just from the red sidewall to the black sidewall, the balance can change quite a bit. So what they're doing with these wing adjustments is they're either adding or removing front downforce. Traditionally, the red tire. Oh, and we see Simon Pagenaud recently done his pit stop in the runoff at turn 9.
Waiting for Joseph Newgarden. Now the race leader, does he come this time? Can he stretch it another lap? He is in pit lane. Now the race is on, Kevin Lee, when we see how good Team Penske can be in comparison to Andretti Autosport. Can they get this man out ahead of Colton Herta?
And Scott, Marcus Eric's going to come in right behind him as well. Joseph Newgarden said the key is going to be who can make the reds last the best. He's going to the primary. He's out. Watch for Colton Herta in the blend. Ericsson will come in behind him.
I think Newgarden's going to do this. I think Joseph Newgarden is going to leapfrog Colton Herta. The Hitachi Chevy, the number 2 team, excellent service. And this is going to be close. On Shoreline Drive now is Colton Herta.
It's such a long pit lane, though. You've got to stay on that limiter. Now Newgarden's off the button and accelerating. Here comes Newgarden. Here comes Colton Herta. And it does not look to be even close. Newgarden with the advantage, but he's on cold tires.
He's also behind Alex Palou. He got in front. Alex Palou was ahead of both of those guys. So a big jump from the 10 crew. We saw the same thing in St. Pete. They cycled through on the pit cycle. They cycled forward. And look at Colton Herta trying to get the power down and keep up with Joseph Newgarden on those cold tires.
Now it's game on. Now things have changed. And the challenge is on for the pole man, Colton Herta, with Palou and Newgarden ahead. You rejoin us live here at Long Beach. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, James Hinchcliffe, Kevin Lee, Marty Snyder, Dave Burns on a beautiful Southern California day where the racing is getting hot. Joseph Newgarden, the first car you see, trying to fend off the pole sitter, Colton Herta. Meanwhile, reigning series champion Alex Palou has taken off.
I mean, this is very important for Colton Herta to get around Joseph Newgarden right now. He obviously has superior pace, but Palou's already 3 seconds up the road. He cannot waste time behind the 2 car, so it is hustle time, but this goes back to Townsend's point. This is where Colton has to be measured. He cannot afford to throw the thing away like he did in Nashville last year.
And I'll tell you what, during break there was a couple of moments from Colton's onboard that looked really dicey, like almost into the fence with some big oversteer. I think he also has to be careful that he doesn't fry his tires like Rossi did earlier, anxious to get by. So you've got to make smart decisions as there's trouble in the hairpin for Scott McLaughlin.
Championship leader has to flick it around.
That was some handy stuff right there.
That was a bit of a risky move around a blind corner. Let's get a replay of what happened to Scott McLaughlin. He's coming up behind Tatiana Calderon and just clips the inside wall.
Right rear. This is the kicker. This is the hairpin kicker. Watch the right rear.
He's just trying to keep it tight so he can get a good run off to pass the 11, but he hits with the middle of the side pod. I don't think there's not going to be any suspension damage there. So as bad as a hit is, that's as good a hit as you can get.
Super lucky, unless the radiator might be damaged there. But you might wonder, how is that possible with all the laps that you do in practice? It's because you can't see that wall when there's another car in front of you. He was trying to square up the exit.
It cost McLaughlin several positions. You saw those cars go on by. So 2.9 seconds is the difference between race leader Alex Palou and Joseph Newgarden, under siege from Colton Herta. Then Chip Ganassi's Marcus Ericsson and Scott Dixon on that alternative strategy. Dixon has got himself up to 5th place overall, but is in a significantly different strategy, pitting on lap 21 versus the guy he's chasing, pitting on lap 30. Devlin DiFrancesco goes around at the hairpin as well, the young rookie.
Big damage to the left rear. That's that looks fairly terminal. That's a pretty loose wheel.
Is that car-to-car contact or is that car-to-wall contact? That looks like maybe car-to-wall contact indeed. Getting it all wrong there at the exit of turn 9.
And that was his outlap. He'd only just pitted. Comes to the hairpin with a wonky car.
What did you call it, Townsend? Driving the forklift?
Forklifting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's terminal. That's going to be day done for the 29 guys, unfortunately. But man, there's a lot of action on track. It's a bummer for these guys to go out with so many laps left in this race. These races are long and a lot can change.
But yellow, no yellow there. Devlin had opted to pit during the first caution to top up as Colton Herta resumes his chase here. It's almost like he dropped back and is regrouping to kind of study things, and I'm sure Colton's team is looking at the gap to Palou's, holding it about 3 seconds for Newgarden. Newgarden's last lap at 107.7, Palou's last lap at 107.7. Marty, how anxious do you think Colton Herta is to get by right now?
Well, Townsend, you know how busy you are behind the wheel, and Colton Herta asking the question we're all asking right now. How in the world did I wind up in 3rd? Listen.
What's happened there with Palou?
You'll be racing Newgarden at the end of pit lane.
What happened with Palou? How did he jump us by so much?
Just had a little bit of a slow stop there, bud.
So Townsend, to your point, you have said it from the beginning of the year at St. Pete. He has since come on the radio, said, I am absolutely just stuck here. There's nothing I can do. You saw his dad, Brian Herta, on the bottom left of your screen just moments ago, doing his best to calm down his son and his driver. If anyone knows how to calm him down, it would be his dad, Brian Herta. But again, Colton trying to keep composed, knowing he has the best car, and there's still 49 laps to go in this race.
Got to get around Calderon here, losing time to Newgarden, able to do that at turn 4. A couple of other things with some young drivers. David Malukas, drive-through penalty, improper pit exit, and Christian Lundgaard, also a drive-through for pit speed violation. They serve those as we continue closer and closer to halfway here in the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. A frustrated pole sitter in 3rd. NBC's coverage of IndyCar is brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the NTT IndyCar Series, and by Quartz Engine Oil. Keep your engine running younger for longer. Proud sponsor of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And appropriately, that's who we ride with right now, Graham Rahal. in the Quartz Engine Oil Honda, who runs in 10th place at the moment after starting 13th. So some positions made there as he continues to work on Arrow McLaren SP's Pato Award.
It's a good rebound from the 15 guys after an incident in morning warm-up. Graham clipped the wall right here coming out of turn 4. You see the black mark on the wall. So they lost a little bit of their running. This whole squad's really been struggling. His teammates, Christian Lundgaard and Jack Harvey, really haven't had the pace. He's been leading the program, but it's nice to see those guys running up inside the top 10.
And good to see Jack Harvey back after his inability to compete in Texas a couple of weeks ago. He's back aboard the High V Honda alongside Christian Lundgaard and Graham Rahal. He said that was agonizing to miss that race after he had a heavy crash in practice on the first oval of the year. He said, one thing it taught me, Townsend, was gratitude. He said, sitting out that race, it just made me hungry, it made me miserable, but it made me appreciate what I do for a living.
Well, one thing Jack Harvey's teaching me here is a totally different driving style. I'd never noticed, James, that he takes his thumb off the wheel for every corner, it seems, and actually places it flat on the wheel. That's pretty unique. Normally, I would think you would want I've always driven with my thumb wrapped over the 9 and 3 bar, the crossbar of the steering wheel. Watch this down in turn 1 with his left hand.
His right hand, you see
sorry,
it.
right hand, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I bet if you watch his qualifying on board, he does that. This could be a blisters thing. You know, when you're on a bumpy street circuit, you're hot, you're sweaty, your skin gets soft, and you're doing 85 laps, you can sometimes develop blisters from rubbing against the inside edge of your thumb there. So taking it off and sort of placing it up on the
look
wheel.
at this. He kind of bear claws it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what it is. Because you're right, you'd think you'd want the maximum grip strength around the wheel.
Never seen that before.
You know how Colton Herta was asking, to the team and to his dad, how did Alex Palou get around us? Their 3 respective pit stops. Colton Herta was 9.39 seconds. Newgarden was 8.1. Chip Ganassi Racing got Alex Palou out in just over 7.5 seconds. That's what put the Spaniard, the reigning series champion, out in front. Let's talk more, Marty, about Chip Ganassi Racing and in particular Scott Dixon.
Yeah, Diff, let's take you on a mini through the field for the back half of the top 10, starting with Scott Dixon, who pitted way earlier than everybody else, but he was able to leapfrog his way through the field up to 5th. Right now, the concern, he used a ton of push to pass on this run, Dave, so they're going to have to save a little bit at the end, pit at lap 52 or so, and Dixon is going to have to be in major fuel save mode to the end of the race.
Romain Grosjean, after starting 6th, runs in 6th position, Marty, and that's a good thing because he clouded the wall at the end of qualifying. Talked to the Boisson, his engineer this morning about the car. He said it's perfect. And Romain is very, very happy with it. And we think we have the pace of Colton Herta, the fastest on the weekend so far. But can we beat him? First, they've got to get near him, Marty.
Dave, one note, Will Power was able to go 2 laps longer than all the other teams in the field on that first run of the day. It did gain him 1 spot. Handling-wise, Power very good so far. It's been a very consistent, steady start to the season so far. Also a steady day here in Long Beach for Will Power.
Alexander Rossi is in 8th position. Got a little bit held up and behind on the pace because of the McLaren car of Rosenquist. Had a great test at Barber Motorsports Park on Monday. Brian Barnhart, his strategist, told me that has given him much better drivability for this car, and they think it improved his chances today. Kevin?
Dave Pato Award was a championship contender last year, but it's been a very frustrating start, and he opened up to me this morning very honest about he is going to stop listening and caring what other people think is best for me. I know what's best. My engineers here know what's best. I have the impression he wants to really stop using the influence from the UK-based group from McLaren. Wants the on-track engineers, wants a full reset to the season. Feels pretty good about where things are at so far this weekend, Dave.
Graham Rahal's been frustrated with himself earlier this year at St. Petersburg. Felt like he could get some things corrected here, but qualifying did not go well. What has he done? What Graham Rahal does. Steadily working his way by cars. Decent strategy so far. Up 3 positions for the veteran. Meanwhile, behind him, on the opposite end, rookie Kyle Kirkwood. Why is he so good here on the coast in his first time at Long Beach? Well, maybe because he's a coastal kid. The 23-year-old grew up in Jupiter, Florida, so when he came west, he wanted to go surfing. Surfs all the time in his free time at home in Florida. Came out here with Townsend Bell and others and carved the waves. T. Bell, how good was he?
He was pretty darn good. So much so that I was a little embarrassed after all these years living in California. Have a Florida boy show me up on my home shore.
He is doing a really nice job. Finished 18th in St. Pete, 25th in Texas after that spectacular move, but Kirkwood's knocking on the door of the top 10. Mondays on USA, anything can happen as the fallout from WrestleMania continues. Must be unexpected, must be unhinged, must be Monday. WWE Raw live. That's Mondays at 8 on USA.
So Diff, if this thing stays green, as we're looking at the Geico aerial here, that's Joseph Newgarden in the white and black car, Colton Herta in the yellow and black car chase, and Colton has had the speed all weekend, but if this thing stays green, we're about, I don't know, 8 or 9 laps until the final round of stops. This is what we'll be looking for. This was the first pit stop comparison between Palou and Herta, and you can see Palou stronger in every single measurable area, especially the pit in lap. He beat him on pit lane, but that's really down to the pit crew change. But this is something that Colton Herta can really improve on, is hustling the car to get to the start of pit lane. But Palou crushes it. You do everything right, it adds up to 3.4 seconds, and that answers Colton's question. How did they get around us?
I saw you flinch, Hinch, though, when Herta was coming down pit lane for his stop. Looked like he jinked. Like he went one way, he didn't identify his pit box correctly.
He nearly went into the wrong box for sure. I mean, that's the 10th and a half, 1.7 tenths that we saw of time on pit lane. That's the driver. They're getting into the box, getting out of the box. The 60 to 0 and 50 to 0 and 0 to 50 time. But it could have also thrown his crew off a little bit. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, the driver has to be as perfect in a pit stop as the crew does. You've got to be on your marks. You've got to be not too close to the wall, not too far away, not angled. So let's take a look at what we're talking about. You see him here. He starts to turn in, and he says, nope, not that one. Not that one.
There we are. And look, it doesn't look like a big deal, but a tenth, 2/10 of a second, half a second, everything counts.
But what it could have done, Marty, is throw off his pit crew as well in the box. When they saw that happen, mentally, you've got to fully reset expectations.
Yeah, and Brian Herta, his dad, has reminded him of that. Hey, we need a cleaner stop, just all around everyone on what should be the final stop of the day. But I don't know, Townsend, if I'm seeing what Alex Palou has been able to do here. He pitted 3 laps before Joseph Newgarden, 2 laps before Colton Herta. He got the lead, and he has not flinched since he got that lead. So if you're Brian Herta, are you bringing your son in a little bit earlier, maybe 1 lap before Joseph Newgarden does, to maybe get on those new tires sooner?
I think you'd want to, because the undercut could work to get Colton out in clean air unless he picks up traffic. However, down in this range, these should be the gamblers. These are the ones that should be the first to make the last stop and try to luck out on a yellow, because they're sort of locked in right now and not going forward. So if you want to roll the dice, you want to be the first one to make the last stop, gamble a little bit on the fuel mileage, and try to hope that you get a yellow at the right time.
And that also encourages others, it sort of tricks others into going earlier than they want, because they're sitting exposed. You know, if the yellow does come out, that other car is going to cycle forward to the front. They lose track position, so it does sort of become a little bit of a game of chicken with these pit crews.
Yeah, whoever pits first puts the rest of the field into what Marty likes to call the danger zone.
Danger zone.
Simon Pagenaud for Meyer Shank Racing. The Frenchman is running in 18th place at the moment. It will not be satisfactory for him, because he was up front at one of the practice sessions earlier in the weekend. It was a really positive start for the Meyer Shank Honda driver, the Auto Nation Sirius XM machine. Let's take you to the team. Let's use our Snoop cam. Let's have a little look and a little listen with one of the co-team owners, Mike Shank.
They really should think about putting a yellow to sweep the plate.
I'll put a little message in for you.
It's just like almost undrivable.
Pagenaud asking for a yellow?
Yeah, because was that for sweeping? Is it about the marbles?
Yeah. So it's almost undrivable.
I mean, there are quite a few marbles there. That's just the rolled up bits of the rubber, the tire, as it wears, it rolls up. Wow. And forms these, I mean, we call it marbles for a reason. It's like stepping on a plate of marbles. It's unbelievable how slick it gets, the grip loss when you drive over those.
Chip Ganassi Racing leading Team Penske, leading Andretti Autosport. 3 different teams in the top 3 positions. Palou, Newgarden, Herta. With 1 more scheduled stop to occur, who's going to be the best in pit lane? Who's got the speed out on the track? NBC's coverage of IndyCar is brought to you by Hy-Vee. Throughout the race season, HyVeeDeals.com provides a chance to win $25,000. HyVeeDeals.com, proud sponsor of the number 45 car. And by Acura. precision crafted performance. And further to that note, for all of you IndyCar racing fans, you can grab your mobile device, scan the QR code on your screen for a chance to win that $25,000 with thanks to HiVDeals.com. It's simple, scan the QR code and register to win with thanks to our friends at Hy-Vee. We are back with 33 laps to go in the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach on a beautiful Southern California day. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, James Hinchcliffe with you. Here is the race leader, the man who was crowned IndyCar champion last year, the first Spanish IndyCar driver to ever win the NTT IndyCar Series title. Happy memories from that. He finished just off the podium last September. He is guiding the way here, Alex Palou.
And he's done it all today with really no drama, James. Just smooth, steady hands like what he had all last season, leading to that first IndyCar championship. And we said at the time that he's the first driver that we've seen that's come along that matches the temperament of Scott Dixon. Marty Dixon's in with 31 to go.
Yeah, first of the leaders to come to pit road, Scott Dixon, and they are choosing to go with sticker primary tires. That is very significant because Scott Dixon is one of the few on pit road that had another set of sticker alternate tires that he could have gone to. Dixon going with the primaries. We'll see how this plays out.
That puts the rest of the field in the danger zone. So if a yellow comes right now, Dixon cycles to the front on fresh tires with a quick race car. How quickly now do the leaders decide to protect and come to pit lane? Do you take the insurance on this lap?
At some point, you got to cover that. There's no doubt about it. But it is interesting that the 9 car did not think they could make a set of sticker reds, make it 32 laps. It's a tall order. There's no doubt about it. And Scott was blisteringly quick on those primary tires, so it's going to be interesting to see what tire choices we see out of the other leaders when they come to pit lane.
Look at Palou pushing right now. He knows that this is the chance to open up the gap to Newgarden and Colton Herta before this round of stops.
That's right, Townsend. First, they told him just blip the overtake a little bit. They told him last lap, okay, plenty of overtake now. He's got the fuel he needs to try to extend this gap. It's gone from 2.6 to almost 2.9 seconds over Newgarden.
You get 200 seconds of push to pass. You can disperse that in 20-second, up to 20-second bursts. Alex Palou has 74 seconds of that 200 seconds of push to pass left.
It gives you about a 50 horsepower advantage when it's engaged.
There
we see him come to pit lane here. This will be key. Man, Scott Dixon made his teammate blink. I mean, this is an inter-team rivalry.
You can see a lot of the other teams set up now. So Palou had a really good in-lap, Dave. See how they do on pit lane, the 10 crew.
He goes cleanly around Alexander Rossi's crew, also laid out on pit road. He'll get the used primaries on the 10 car, and he's gone.
No issues there.
No used red tires there either. These drivers are committing to the harder compound tire to try to make this last in, which is going to be a long one. You know, Palou, he was 3 laps sooner than Joseph Newgarden, 2 laps sooner than Colton Herta on the last pit sequence. So now this is the race between these 2 cars on track and Palou getting up to speed.
Now Colton Herta's chance to push as hard as he can as Alexander Rossi has trouble on the right rear. They came off the air jacks before the wheel nut was tight.
And that's a replacement right rear tire changer. Jessica Mace had a little trouble with the wheel nut there, but now Rossi's moving again.
Another problem for Andretti Autosport in the pits, guys. It's just not what this group wants.
Oh,
Colton Herta on the wall.
Colton
Turn
Herta
9.
will not defend his race win. He has smashed that Gainbridge Honda into the wall. He is out of this race.
Is this Nashville all over again? It certainly looks like it. Colton Herta was absolutely pushing as hard as he could on that in-lap, and it's all gone south.
Oh, no.
Can you get down here at all? Stuck.
Dad is asking, can you make it down here at all? He says, nope, I'm stuck.
It wouldn't matter if he did, guys. That car is not getting back on the racetrack.
I'm going to guess turn 9 exit, just like Devlin DiFrancesco's crash. Bigger impact here. Let's take another look.
God, devastating for him, man. This is deja vu all over again. Not what he wants to see. Here we go on the brakes. Bit of a hits that bump there, bottoms out, big brake lock, and just was just holding on. I mean, could not get that tire. You see how aggressive that bump is.
It is.
Lifts the tire off the ground, it locks up, and off you go.
But you know, that's exactly what we showed with that pit stop comparison. It was the in-lap.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Brian Herta was looking at the same data saying, hey, you need to, we're losing on the in-lap. You got to push a little bit harder.
There's got to be a yellow here, guys, as a frustrated Colton Herta is out of the car. There's debris all over the track. Did you see those parts all just ricocheting off the wall? Not yet.
Maybe they're going to let everybody get to pit lane and give them a chance before they throw the caution.
That's too risky. I mean, that's right where cars are going to drive. If they drive over that, it could be a puncture.
Yeah, I think they've left the track green to allow everyone, because it wasn't a dire situation, to make this last stop. Marcus Ericsson was in a moment ago. Pato O'Ward. There's Joseph Newgarden and Alex Palou. Did he come? Yes, Palou is also on pit lane, I think. Maybe not.
There's Joseph Newgarden making that long trip down pit lane off the button. As Alex Palou's coming down shoreline, you're going to see a blue race car come into focus here. Head to turn one. There's Palou in the blue car. Here's Newgarden. Newgarden.
John Black, no pressure behind.
Got to push, got to push, got to push. Can Newgarden hang on? Where will Palou make the move? Into turn 4. He's not close enough. And that's dicey through there anyway.
Yeah, wait till turn 6. Joseph, he's going to try it in 5. This could be bad. Slight contact.
He's on the outside for turn 6. It's power to Newgarden here at this left-hander coming up.
Still overtake. Still there, still there.
These guys know that this is the battle for the win right here. Newgarden needs to get tire temperature to hold him off. He's almost home free here, Kinch, in terms of tire temp. Here comes Palou for another run.
Joseph defending right away, driving through the marbles. Both drivers on the button. Palou's going to have slightly better tires, but no. Joseph defends enough. Palou really, I think, lost his chance by trying in turn 5 and not waiting until turn 6. They put him in the wrong side. He's got one good opportunity left, trying to get a good run off the hairpin here, but a great launch from Newgarden. I don't know if he's got it.
Newgarden did a brilliant job to stay ahead right there. It was so close, so dicey. He had to be patient on cold tires. Now he has temperature, and look at the push to pass remaining. Newgarden with 20-second advantage over Palou. Great stuff.
The guy who's about to become a parent for the first time, out in front, handling the pressure from the young charge, the champion behind him. That was awesome work, Team Penske. Terrific work, Joseph Newgarden behind the wheel. So Herta has had his time out in front. Palou, his time out in front. Now it's the Newgarden show with just 26.5 laps to go.
And only 12 seconds of push to pass left for Alex Palou. That leaves him massively vulnerable if we do have a caution here in the remaining laps. Still 27 on the cards. That puts him not in a great spot. So
on his button. He's got 12 left.
All sort of come unraveled for the 10 car, and that was Tim Cindric telling Joseph Newgarden, yeah, he's only got 12 seconds left of his push to pass.
Newgarden still has a lot to manage here with some lap cars up ahead. I think that's Christian Lundgaard in the 30.
The guy who was hoping for that yellow was Scott Dixon. He was sitting pretty, had that yellow flag come out, but it staying green, allowed these guys to duck into the pits and get on there.
0.25.
Them telling him
oh my goodness.
5 trouble, guys.
Simon Pagenaud is in the garden.
I've never seen an IndyCar in the garden.
Pagenaud's doing some edge trimming.
This happened yesterday in the Porsche Carrera Cup Championship, and the car was facing the other way, not the wrong way.
I've always thought this was possible. I've never seen it.
Now the
caution.
That's quite the, I would assume, yes, that was coming. It's quite the predicament for the 60 car. I didn't realize Simon was a horticulturalist.
Well, he is now.
Must be lovely in terms of fragrance right now.
Let's see what happened to Simon Pagenaud in the Meyer Shank Honda, side by side with Takuma Sato for some gardening work right at the fountain. And then Scott McLaughlin gets into the back of Rinus VeeKay, a multi-car incident here. VeeKay avoids him, McLaughlin tags the back of VeeKay, chaos at the fountain, and there is a big cleanup needed.
Back at Long Beach, boy, it's been an eventful second half of this race. Simon Pagenaud with an accident a moment ago, but the story of the second half of this race, no doubt. Colton Herta, the dominant car today, is now out of it. Colton, what happened?
I just broke a little bit too late. Got in there, locked the right front, and that's it.
I saw you put your hands inside your helmet there. Were there flashbacks to Nashville last year when you had such a dominant car there as well and went into the wall?
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
I said, I saw you put your hands in your helmet. Were there flashbacks to Nashville of last year when you had the dominant car there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a stupid mistake. Like, we were definitely in that thing. You know, we were running good there in third and keeping up with Alex and Joseph. So it's unfortunate. I feel really bad. Yeah.
When the pit stop sequence kind of cycled out and you were third, all of a sudden it seemed like it really surprised you. I
was surprised. I didn't know how that happened. So I'll have to look a little bit more into that. But car was fantastic. You know, my engineer Nathan here gave me a great car, and yeah, just overdid it a little bit today.
So when you walk away from this one, Colton, do you walk away saying, hey, I know we had the speed to win this race, and that's what we take moving forward?
Something like that.
Colton Herta, obviously a little upset with himself. We'll let him meet with his engineer, Nathan O'Rourke. Colton Herta, who dominated the first part of this race. He is now out of it, will not win this race today. This was Colton's wreck just a moment ago. And then the caution, the reason for this caution, Simon Pagenaud going through the fountain. There you go. He winds up in the garden. Doing a little grass cutting. Colton Herta out. Simon Pagenaud coming down pit road here in a moment.
On the first Saturday in May, you're invited to the Run for the Roses. The hats, the mint juleps, the pageantry. You won't want to miss a thing. The 148th Kentucky Derby, Saturday, May 7th on NBC and streaming on Peacock. As we welcome you back, guess what else happens in the month of May? The Indianapolis 500.
I've heard of it.
Let's kick off the month of May here at Indianapolis.
VK looking up the middle.
Renus VK wins.
Yeah! Yeah!
Dixon grabs his 4th Indianapolis 500 pole position. This is, and always will be, the greatest spectacle in racing. Look at the crowd. They know history's on the line. Welcome to the 4-time club, Elio Castro Neves. That took us straight back there, didn't it, to the Brickyard last year. Amazing scenes with Elio capturing that 4th. Hench, Townsend, myself, the whole gang, we will be at Indianapolis on Wednesday and Thursday, April 20 and 21, for an open test. Really important 2 days for all of the teams and drivers to get going in the month of May on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the lead up to this year's Indy 500. It begins it all in the month of May. Can't wait.
Any chance I get to go back home again to Indiana? I love the fact we get to go a little early. Sometimes that test is a little later in the year, so a little later in April or early May, I should say. But happy to get there and see where everybody is right now. Not always where they're going to end up on race weekend in Indy, but an early look at the greatest spectacle in racing. Always a treat.
AMR safety team and the track workers have done a really good job of cleaning up the fountain. You can see there where after Simon Pagenaud was facing the wrong way in the flowers. And everybody is positioned correctly, packed up. And Dave Burns, they all want to know who's got what.
Yes, Romain Grosjean in his 16th ever IndyCar race wants to know what he's got compared to those in front of him.
What is the push-to-pass situation ahead of me?
Right now, Ericsson ahead of you is sitting at 82. The 12 right behind you has 39. Second place has 11. First place has 39. P4 will have about 23 laps to go. You're the only guy on reds.
So Hinch, they gave him the information, and then they told him, by the way, you're the only one with reds. How much of an advantage will he have?
I mean, on the restart, it's going to be an advantage for sure, but what we saw on that opening stint was the guy on the black sidewall tire, Scott McLaughlin, in the top 10, he was able to maintain position, so that advantage is only going to be there for the actual restart.
I find Grosjean, though, I'm thinking, why am I the only one on reds? Was that a mistake?
Well, no, with all these caution laps, I think it looks smarter and smarter. Grosjean had a new set of sticker reds. He was one of only 2 cars that started on used reds. By the rules, he had to run the sticker reds in the race.
And here's where it gets tricky, Diff. Hot tires for everybody, circulating under yellow with a ton of marbles that they're trying to clean up, but invariably a lot of those marbles stick to the hot tires. This restart is going to be gnarly. The first few corners, you are absolutely hanging on, just skating around the track, Kev.
Chip Ganassi Racing won the sports car race yesterday for Cadillac, and Mike O'Gara is on the radio with Marcus Ericsson right now getting set for the reset, and I hear him talking to his driver, I think, as well. Mike, you've got some extra push to pass. Can Marcus get a couple of more spots, maybe 3?
Yeah, we'll see. They don't enable it right away, so he's got a little in the bank. There's always more than one restart here at the end of the race, so he's a smart kid and he'll figure it out.
Thanks, Mike. If you can get praise from Chip Ganassi, you're doing well, and that's what has happened with Marcus Ericsson. He said, I like this kid. told me yesterday, well, he's not really a kid anymore. He said he's made some changes in his personal life. He feels really stable here. And he said, I like what he's doing. It's great to have him part of the team. And there he is in the very distinct white and red Husky Chocolate Honda. Look for Ericsson, the former F1 driver, to make a move. Will he make a move on his championship-winning teammate, though?
And Hitch, I can see clag, debris all over everybody's tires. It's going to be a handful here.
I'm surprised they didn't do more cleanup there, but they're going to come through turn 10. They're allowed to accelerate anytime around here. Joseph Newgarden not getting the jump that Cole Herta did early. He's going slow here.
Here we go, here we go. Joseph Newgarden at the head of the field. Has Alex Palou got anything for the Team Penske driver? And Chevrolet going for 3 consecutive wins in a row. Can Honda spoil the party?
You gotta think someone's gonna lock up here. There was just stuff all over the front straightaway, but up front it is clean. No tire smoke, no lockup issues as they come to the fountain single file.
This is where Romain Grosjean is going to have some advantage in this slower section on those red sidewall tires. So they come through. Turn Marcus Ericsson in the wall. He keeps it going, but that will be a game over.
No!
And he takes out Dixon.
His teammate hits him from behind. Marcus Ericsson, when everything was looking so good, smashes the wall, exiting turn 4. It was one of the key spots, the hot spots. His race is over. Has he damaged Dixon's car badly?
At first glance, it looked like Dixon got away with another one. It looked like it was square on his nose, and Dixon's car might be all right. Let's take a look at the PNC number 9. I don't see any. I mean, how many times does Dixon Houdini his way out of total drama and potential disaster to carry on?
By the way, big beneficiary in that situation as well was Pato O'Ward of Arrow McLaren SP. There he goes. O'Ward is up in the top 5 after starting in 11th position earlier today. And Romain Grosjean has 1 foot on the podium.
Let's take a look at this again. Nightmare scenario for Marcus Ericsson. They're single file. His teammate Palou's got a little bit of a gap, and I think he just loses it on the power. We've seen that, I don't know, 4 or 5 times this weekend in practice. And then as Palou is trying to gently wheel the forklift out of the way with rear steer going, Dixon's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Here it is again.
Yeah,
Bang.
Got a little bit too much curve, got on the power, cold tires, dirty tires, like you were saying, Townsend. We had a little wiggle from Palou in front, but obviously a very big wiggle from Marcus Ericsson, and that's just really unfortunate. We've talked about how consistent he's been, how he hasn't made any mistakes. He's been almost leading the Ganassi squad at some of these events, and unfortunately, here's the onboard from Grosjean.
Nice job from Grosjean to stay out of trouble. Up front, guys, Palou and Grosjean seem to be all over the back of Newgarden. I think Newgarden's having a hard time. 18 laps to go on a very dirty racetrack. Track temperature now 117 degrees, and here comes Grosjean.
He wants his first IndyCar race win. Side by side with the champ. He's going to have to break deep.
Go there.
Palou holds on.
Corner,
Great driving from both men. Alex Palou
Make him use those reds up.
Terrific stuff. I think Grosjean knows that on those Firestone reds, the advantage is early, not late in the stint. So Grosjean wants to put that softer rubber to work now before they start to degrade later on.
He's in a good spot. I mean, we saw earlier in when Joseph Newgarden came out of the pits the first time, Colton Herta was all over the back of him at the beginning of that stint. He's struggling to get up to pace. But guys, Romain Grosjean, he's here. It's 2010 that DHL debuted on the number 28 car right here in Long Beach. Ryan Hunter-Reay was driving that car. Ryan Hunter-Reay won that race. They would love nothing more than to return to victory lane here in the beach.
So watching the Firestone telemetry here, let's just ride for a couple of corners, and Grosjean made a bar adjustment. Can he get a run coming to Shoreline?
Got a great run.
Who's in with 11 on push to pass.
Got a great run. Palou makes it hard for the Frenchman. Grosjean wheel to wheel with the Spaniard again. Now he's going to try and squeeze him over a little bit. Power to Grosjean, second place.
Brilliant stuff from Romain Grosjean. Had a little fade in the brake zone to put Alex Palou on the dirtier part of the racetrack and take away any chance Palou would have to answer and respond with a late brake move.
Now Grosjean had to burn a lot of push to pass to get that done. He's down to 19 seconds. Joseph Newgarden
He's struggling.
21. He is definitely struggling.
Newgarden is hanging on to the back of that Hitachi Chevy right now.
And Grosjean just looks in complete control. He is absolutely on rails right now on those Firestone alternate tires.
But don't panic if you're Newgarden or Palou. You know the competition's on the softer rubber. You know it's 120 degrees out there. It might be good now, but it might not be good later. Be patient.
You just have to hang on to it maybe for a few more laps before that advantage on the red tires goes away. But man, I don't know if there's a few laps left in it before Grosjean makes this thing final.
He was all over the back of the Hitachi Chevy through turn 11, just like he was with Alex Palou. Not quite as close though, not in a strong enough position to make a challenge from back here. 15 laps to go.
Still one, still one, still one. 2 back.
Does he save a little push to pass and let those reds cool down a bit?
It's not a bad idea. He used some on that last stretch down shoreline. He's down to 8 seconds. Joseph goes wide in turn 5. Here's an opportunity side by side into turn 6.
Romain Grosjean's got the outside option. He might be tuck it back in on the inside for the downhill run. Through turn 7, downhill to turn 8. Wrong side there for Grosjean.
But we saw after the pit stop that Newgarden is a master at keeping somebody behind at Long Beach. I don't know how long he's going to be able to pull this off, though.
Turn 9 is a real hot spot here at Long Beach. And now that's allowed Palou back into this conversation.
Palou is right back into the mix, and I think in about 5 laps we're going to see the advantage for Grosjean start to fade, and Palou and Newgarden are going to be right back in the catbird seat.
Especially driving so close behind Joseph Newgarden in that dirty air. It's going to work those tires harder. He's in the draft trying to make it happen. Does he get on the button? Does he save some? They're all pretty similar. Grosjean is out. He has used his last run of push to pass. Joseph Newgarden is down to 4 seconds.
Deep on the brakes in the wall. Can't quite do it there. Will he try and get him again out of 4 to 5, 5 to 6? Who knows? The opening stanza of this race was pretty pedestrian. There were not many big moves. There was not much passing. The closing stanza is a thriller.
And look at this. I think just in 1 lap, I'm already seeing Grosjean struggling a little bit to stay as close. Grosjean out of overtake, Newgarden at 4 seconds, so Grosjean is done on push to pass, and he has a long way to go to get to this finish with a hard-charging Palou responding and regrouping behind him.
These guys have been pretty lofty in their use of the button to already be out with 14 laps to go. Palou went from having the least to having the most, so a ton of curve. You saw the front end skip up there on the 28 car. That's going to leave Alex Palou right on Romain's gearbox here, coming off of 11. Guys, this race is far from over.
Let's drift back a little bit. Will Power is only 3 seconds in arrears. There he is, the red and black car at the back of your screen. He's got Pato Award behind him. Then Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, Elio Castro Neves, the 4-time Indy 500 winner, is in the top 10 with the rookie Kyle Kirkwood.
Cal Kirkwood, another solid job being inside the top 10. But guys, what a comeback for Pato Award to be in the top 5. If he can hold on to that, that would be, I think, a nice reward for that team after a struggle all weekend.
If Newgarden can win this one, if he stays where he is, he goes back-to-back for the first time since 2017. He takes the lead of the championship, but that's easier said than done. There's still 12 and a half laps to go.
There's nothing more challenging than being on the final stint of a race. Your tires are starting to go, you're starting to fatigue, and you are looking as much behind you as you are in front of you, trying to control where the car is behind you, try to not open up any opportunities, not make any mistakes. It is all about being absolutely car placement picture perfect for Joseph Newgarden right now.
It has been a thorn in the side of Honda that it is yet to see victory lane in the NTT IndyCar Series in 2022. There's a Chevrolet leading 2 Hondas. Will it stay that way? Back at Long Beach, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and we're taking you all the way through to the checkered flag with 11 laps to go. Make it 10 from here. Big crash, Jimmy Johnson and rookie David Malukas, turn 8. There's another caution.
Oh boy.
This is going to spice things up.
What does that do now for Award, for Will Power, for Scott Dixon?
They're in it.
Fast race cars with push pass left. Graham Rahal's got 72 seconds to use. Meanwhile, a little fire on Jimmy Johnson's car as the AMR safety team races out to check on the drivers. That's the right front.
That's not a little fire anymore, Johnson. That's a big fire and growing. We definitely need to get something on that.
Yeah, I mean, common issue here. The brakes get super hot on a street circuit when you come to a sudden stop. There's the fire extinguisher. What a weekend Jimmy Johnson's had. Boy. 3rd time into the wall.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely fortuitous for someone like Graham Rahal because he's on reds with 72 seconds of push to pass to spare. It is definitely a predicament for Romain Grosjean, who's out of push to pass.
72 push to pass. Dixon 16. Rossi 32 behind.
That's another way of saying, Graham, you're in terrific shape. Jimmy Johnson out of the car with that injured right hand after crashing in exactly the same spot earlier this weekend in the very first practice and then again at turn 1. There's David Malukas in the background, the youngster in his first season of IndyCar racing. He's out and he's okay. What happened?
So gonna look. Oh, did he get help?
I don't think he did.
It looks Malukas was too far back.
Yeah, he just lost it under braking maybe, and David Malukas, unfortunately, just really a victim there. Be interesting to see another shot if we have one.
He's backwards. So I was just looking at the nose of David Malukas' car as he came into frame there. It almost looked like there was a hole in the nose already.
Maybe he
had to get in the back, but tough to say.
You think Jimmy's car snapped sideways too quickly? That
It
might
seemed
be
a bit
the cause
aggressive.
Yeah, Malukas.
It seemed a bit aggressive, but you never know. Sometimes if you hit a downshift at just the wrong point over a bump, you can lock the rear wheels just momentarily, and you're already so on the limit of the grip that it can send it over. So it's tough to know.
So here's the state of play. 9 laps to go, and we have got a group in the top 10 that is savage. That is, they're going to be out for it. And you got Grosjean with no push to pass left. He'll be in a defensive position while trying to go on the attack to Joseph Newgarden. And it's going to be the guys probably, what, 5th back that we've got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it reminds me, like, you guys ever go to summer camp as a kid? You're there for a week. At the end, on the last day, a lot of the other kids have spent all their snack money. And there you sit, you still got like $7 and you're the king. It's like, I got M&Ms, I got gummy bear potential.
Let's go.
What you got, man?
Let's wheel and deal.
Grosjean's first week at summer camp, he's still figuring this out.
What's so cool about how this is setting up to finish, guys, is no matter who comes out the winner, this is going to be a race win to be proud of. This is an absolute street fight here at Long Beach now.
Well, a little further down that order, Kyle Kirkwood, the rookie who for AJ Foyt Racing, he just flashed by in the Rocket Chevy. He's pretty good. He's got 57 seconds of push to pass, so he might be able to get up there and get his best result in his 3rd IndyCar race.
And listen, this thing's going to take a little while to clean up. I think we might have 3 or 4 laps to go when it goes green. And just think about how treacherous it was on the last restart. Now you have older tires and even more marbles on the track. We saw it bite Ericsson. Marty, there's a lot to hang in here for.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you just to debate a little bit. Rinus VeeKay is on pit road. He was 16th, the last car on the lead lap, so why not pit, right? They put on sticker alternate tires. You're right, Townsend, there should be 3 to 4 laps to go, but for folks at home who may be used to watching NASCAR races, you would see half the field pit here. Why do IndyCar teams decide not to pit here with 8 to go right now, but probably 3 laps of racing left?
Well, it's a good question, Marty. I think if I'm in the, around 15th, Jack Harvey, VeeKay did pit and put on fresh tires. But I think if I'm in the back, I'd put on fresh tires, but you just can't afford to lose the track position. It's too hard to get it back, that's why.
Well, Scott McLaughlin pitted late on lap 61. He's jumped up yet another position. He's into 14th after that early race mishap where he clouted the inside wall at turn 11 and it spun him around, lost multiple positions and was playing catch-up from that point. He would lose the championship lead as it stands now with Joseph Newgarden, his teammate, out in front. Newgarden would leapfrog him into the lead of the championship, but Hinch, we're not talking about any of that because there's still so much to play out here as the Carvana Honda gets rescued.
Yeah, you really can't count your chickens, right, Lee? It's still a lot to play for, and as Townsend said, as these tires get older, they wear more. It's so much harder to keep the heat in them under caution, so this restart is going to be that much more difficult for these drivers to just maintain the pace, maintain control as we count these laps down. Kevin Lee is down on the pit box with Tim Cindric, who's the strategist for the number 2 car.
And he's trying to help Joseph Newgarden to a 2nd win in a row. All right, you're on the primaries. Grosjean is on the alternates, but they've got 20 laps on them. What's the preferred Firestone right now?
Well, I think we're all going to find out. I think, obviously you've seen him drive through the field here, at least get by the 10 car, but it's going to be a fight here to the end. Yeah, I think, you know, certainly the yellows are helping the red tires. So, you know, I can't say enough about the job that Joseph's done today, whether he wins it or doesn't win it. I mean, you look at the out laps and the in laps and holding these guys off. He's done a great job along with his pit crew. So, yeah, should be a good race.
And remember, this guy's going to become a dad any day. Joseph Newgarden might go home with a win. Dave.
Catch up with two-time Long Beach winner and team owner for Romain Grosjean. You've seen him go from a great position. Okay, now he's on the older reds and no push to pass. Where's Romain now?
Well, if it's going to happen, he's going to have to do it probably into turn 6, I think, is his best shot. And then if he doesn't, I think then hopefully just bring it home second. So, you know, I have to wait and see, because I think, you know, there's still an advantage having the reds for the restart. So we'll see.
We know Romain, he's pretty aggressive. Can he bring it home second?
Sorry?
Can he bring it home second, Michael, or you think he's just going to go for it?
He can still win.
He can there you go. It's the W, guys. That's what it's all about.
There he is, the busiest man in motorsport on a global scale. Michael Andretti, involved in so many series, still waiting for his approval for a field an 11th Formula One team. We'll wait for that news on that. But right here, right now, it's all about his new driver, Romain Grosjean, in the DHL Honda, in that bright yellow and red car. Second, can it get the victory? Can Grosjean, after his rookie season last year, where he stood on the podium 3 times, the darling of the crowd, can he be an IndyCar race winner? That'd be something. And to do it here at Long Beach especially.
Everybody trying to clean up their tires now. You're going to do that by spinning the rears on the throttle, basically a burnout from about 30 miles an hour, then heavy on the brakes, maybe a little bit of swerve. The problem is if you swerve too much, you go offline and pick up more spent rubber on the racetrack. Looks like everything's cleaned up now, where Jimmy Johnson and David Malukas had the incident, so should see a restart here maybe in another lap.
Had a great chat with Romain the other day. Mary and his wife, the 3 kids, they've all settled in to southern Florida. They're feeling good about life in America. They'll be feeling a whole lot better if he gets this victory in just a handful of laps. What kind of a launch off turn 11 does Joseph Newgarden get? His team president just said he's so pleased with him. Grosjean's looking antsy. He wants to go with him. The
green flag
wants to go, but Grosjean gets an excellent launch to go with Joseph Newgarden. Will he have enough to make the move at the restart?
That's a great jump. Push to pass is disabled for 2 laps, or for 1 lap, sorry, after a restart. He's going to try to make it work on the outside. Those red tires are going to be good on the brakes, but Joseph holds him off as Pato O'Ward goes by Scott Dixon.
Pato O'Ward with the big send. Now this was the tricky part of the track on the last restart for Ericsson. Watch these guys just dance carefully through here and hopefully not get a big oversteer moment. As you see, Marcus Ericsson can only watch.
And he was right here. He was right here in the thick of it, fighting for a podium. Pato O'Ward's in good shape. He's got plenty of push to pass left as he forms and stages an attack on Will Power. There is Power in the bright red car. Dixon is up next. Then Graham Rahal, who has a ton of push to pass left. Can he do anything about Dixon?
How about Pato O'Ward, that orange and black car all over the back of Will Power. Pato charging on that opening lap. He closes even more on Will Power in terms of push to pass. O'Ward with 32. Power with 15. Here comes the front straightaway, and he's on the button. You see those 2 green lights on both sides of the steering wheel. Push to pass is activated.
It's so tough coming off turn 11 with cold, old, worn tires to get that power down. You want to just slam the throttle pedal, but you've got to be so careful. You've got to dance on that pedal to make sure you don't just spin up those Firestones and sacrifice the run. But guys, Romain Grosjean is hounding him.
Do you remember at the top of the show, both Townsend and James said there is something about winning here on the streets of Long Beach. It is super special. None of these 3 drivers that we are looking at here have ever tasted victory in Long Beach. It would be remarkable, especially the way that Newgarden has got this Hitachi Chevy to the front. He hasn't gone back-to-back victories in 5 years, never won here at Long Beach. The first time, the first win, is it here for Grosjean? And how about Alex Palou, where he was crowned champion? Could he back it up with a win?
Well, let's talk about Palou, because of these 3 drivers at the front, nobody's taken better care of their Firestones on this final stint than Palou. He's the one that's been the most patient. He's been the smoothest with the power down. Is that going to make the difference in the final lap or 2?
He's also the only one in the top 3 with any push to pass left, so it's going to be interesting if they can get this done. Now, Dave, what do you know about Alex Palou?
Well, and James, if your team tells you your brakes are good right before you go back to green, what are they telling you? Everyone else says brakes too, but are they telling you you've got an advantage?
No, they're telling you your brake temps are good. One of the things that cools down along with the tires is the brake temperatures. They really need to be in this very certain window for maximum efficiency. And as the driver, you're slamming on the brakes, accelerating, slamming on the brakes to get the temps to just the right point. But you can't overheat them, so the team has to monitor that and relay to the driver. So they were just letting Alex know that he was in good shape.
He's done a good job.
Exactly right.
Palou looks to be the fiercest on pace right now of the three, but he really struggled to stay close to Grosjean out of the hairpin on the last lap.
He's got one good shot, guys, with 11 seconds of push to pass remaining. He'll probably wait, unless there's an opportunity before. He'll probably wait until the last lap coming to the white flag, rather, which will be the next time by, to hit it right out of turn 11 and try and just get Romain Grosjean sleeping, because he cannot defend. He's zero push to pass.
Hey guys, that number 12 of willpower continues to get a little larger in the rearview mirror. Here comes Palou. Is he making? No, not right there. I thought he might lunge to the inside.
Next time by, they will see the white flag. It could not be more tense. Think about Joseph Newgarden, the 31-year-old from Hendersonville in Tennessee. He will be a dad within the next week or so. He won in dramatic fashion in Texas Motor Speedway just a couple of weeks ago, and he could get his first Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach victory. Special year, special time, and could take the lead of the championship. It's all happening right now for Joseph Newgarden.
It's really been the Penske parade so far in 2022. 2 wins, 2 races, and they're looking very good to make it 3 for 3 for the captain. And just this organization has really come on strong, but now we see Takuma Sato in the wall in turn 8. Oh no, with 2 laps to go, are we going to finish this thing under caution?
Wonder if he can get that fired, if it's still going, if he can engage reverse. We don't know for Taku. White flag is out.
Nobody close enough to make a move except maybe Pato O'Ward.
He had plenty of push to pass. He had double than Will Power just a couple of laps ago. Sato cannot get this thing in reverse.
About another 5 seconds diff. They'll have to throw the yellow here.
Yep.
He's just in too precarious a position to leave it a local caution, I feel.
There it is.
And that is race over. Joseph Newgarden will have his first Long Beach victory.
What a drive from Joseph Newgarden.
Spectacular.
Tim Cindric said it. Those in-laps, those out-laps, defending on cold tires.
It was the out-lap defending on that final pit stop, defending on Alex Palou, that I thought was just totally brilliant stuff. I mean, he was at a disadvantage, but he placed his Hitachi Chevy in the exact perfect spot to make it difficult for Palou. He didn't make any mistakes, and credit to Palou. Palou didn't force it.
Absolutely right.
Did you see that from President of Tim Penske? He said to Joseph Newgarden, that was a lot of work today.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, these Penske cars start up front and run away with it, but today, Joseph Newgarden, the 2 team, they really had to earn it.
So, we don't like to see races finish under yellow, but this one was unavoidable. Joseph Newgarden is a Long Beach Grand Prix winner.
Long Beach, guys. Long Beach. It's been a while. Thank you.
How about that?
And you hear them saying, they're not just saying congrats, we won, they're saying Long Beach because it means something.
Joseph Newgarden wins back-to-back races for the first time in 5 years. He's a Long Beach winner now after a lengthy wait, and he's the new championship leader. And the Penske party continues. McLaughlin, Newgarden, Newgarden. For the first 3 races of the year, Chevrolet has won all 3 races. What a start to this 2022 season. Romain Grosjean, his first podium in Andretti Autosport colours, and the champ, Alex Palou, will stand on the podium as well.
And for Team Penske, the last time they won 3 races to start a season was 2012. They also did it in 2010. Good times are here again for Team Penske.
The American finishes ahead of the Swiss-born Frenchman and the Spaniard.
Thumbs up all around. Will Power with a solid day. That puts him 4th in points.
How about Scott Dixon? Made something out of nothing. He was buried in the pack.
You know, as did Graham Rahal. That whole team's really been struggling this weekend, and Graham had problems in practice, but
listen to the crowd.
Do some donuts, Joseph. Come on. Give them the show they want.
Pretty easy to do donuts when you're driving offline on the cool down. You got all that stuff on your tires.
Well, despite finishing under caution, that one was a thriller, especially the final third of that race. That was exhilarating. Really good driving by so many different drivers here in Long Beach.
And you can look at the results. I mean, for Grosjean, so solid, puts him 6th in the championship. For Award, coming home with a solid top 5. He really needed that today. Yep. So a lot of drivers, I think, getting what they needed. How about Kyle Kirkwood, Diff? You point to him on the screen, top rookie today. Another top 10, brilliant stuff.
And Elio Castro Neves from Ayashank Racing in 9th. So there's a lot to take away from this, but this day belongs to this man here, most notably for that outlap and how he defended from Alex Palou.
Super truck race yesterday.
Interesting to hear Joseph's thoughts on how he was able to pull that one off. He was surprised and shocked in Texas with that last lap, that dramatic last lap pass. There's no surprise here. He had to grind that one out and earn that one.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he had the fastest car on the day, but that is all the more reason to celebrate this because it meant he was the best driver on the day, no doubt.
All right, let's head down there. Our man Marty Snyder's standing by. Marty?
Even for a two-time champion, a win at Long Beach is a big deal. This one's a crown jewel, maybe the biggest one of your career, Joseph?
It's definitely up there on the list. Man, this was a fight today. This was not an easy race to win. I don't know if it looks simple from the outside, but I was working my butt off with Grosjean at the end there on the used reds. I was hoping he would fade a little bit towards the end, but just trying to hold him off on the restart was super difficult. The Hitachi car, though, was on it. You know, we knew coming into the race, we have a good strategy. We make good fuel with Team Chevy. We were going to be all right. And I had everything I needed today with pit stops, as you saw, trying to get around Alex. So proud of Team Penske. I've been trying to win a race here for 11 years, so I'm so happy to finally get it done.
So you mentioned both battles. I want to know which one was harder, holding off Grosjean at the end or the outlaps holding off Palou, or maybe it's where you won the race?
I think the outlap with Palou was more risky. You know, we got together in T5 going in deep, and that almost didn't work out when we were side-by-side in that corner. Then went side-by-side in turn 6. That was the difficult battle, but then I think Grosjean overall just had a better shot of getting it done, and fortunately we just held on.
If Colton Herta doesn't have his problems today, are you able to beat him heads up, you think?
Yeah, I think we had him covered today.
That's what you're going to say now?
It's funny, some guy from the LA Times yesterday, he goes, I was walking out of the media room when we finished the press release or the press conference for qualifying, and he goes, hey Joseph, so real quick, at what point does Colton Herta check out tomorrow? And I just took like total offense to that. Like, this guy assumed he was gonna run away with the race. I was like, no way we're letting that happen. So I was pretty determined today. Alex was fast. I think we had him covered for sure.
Real quick, it's been 5 years since you won back-to-back races like you've now done between Texas and Long Beach. Do you get the sense something special is building in 2022?
It's too early to say. It's only 3 races in. You know, we could have a horrible rest of the year. I'm not trying to wish bad JoJo on us, but I look at both sides of the argument. What I feel right now is we're building on the 2 car. Got a great engineer with Eric Likely and all our crew, everybody else that works on it, and I'm feeling positive about where we're going. But we have a long way to go. Indianapolis is where we need to perform at Team Penske, and we know that, and I want a Borg Warner so bad. So let's see what we do in the month of May.
No doubt he wants to do well in a couple of weeks when they get to Indianapolis. And he mentioned his engineer, Eric Likely, who is giving a hug to right now. How about that, Diff? You know, he's 2 for 3 so far. 2 wins in his first 3 races as Joseph's engineer.
What a start, and it might be an omen for the month of May. Newgarden keeps the American winning theme going here at Long Beach. Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta, and Joseph Newgarden. He finally is a Long Beach Grand Prix winner, and he's the 9th different one in the last 10 years. Newgarden on top of the race and the championship, and we are far from done. We've got a whole lot more to talk about from the famed streets of Long Beach, California. What an afternoon. Joseph Newgarden, the winner. It's time for the Children's Miracle Network moment of the race. We're going to take a little bit of creative license here and say moment of the races. Last corner, last lap, 2 weeks ago in Texas, Joseph Newgarden edges out his teammate Scott McLaughlin to win in the most dramatic fashion, and that was Team Penske's 600th victory. This is another one right here on the streets of Long Beach in the Acura Grand Prix. Joseph Newgarden is the man of the moment. He is in the groove. He's got his mojo and wins back-to-back races for the first time in 5 years and goes to the top of the championship. Unfortunately, he finished under yellow. Well, sometimes you can't help that. It was a late race incident for Takuma Sato. That's Rinus VeeKay on the inside and just edges Taku out, and he could not do anything about it. The 2013 Long Beach winner was in those marbles that Hinch and Townsend spoke about. No grip, couldn't turn the Nurtec ODT Chevrolet. Honda, pardon me, and he was stuck there, couldn't reverse, and that's what caused that late race caution, the fourth caution of the race. So there you go. We know who finished where, and how did it impact the points? Well, Scott McLaughlin led for the first two. He leads no more.
Yeah, and further down the list, great day for Scott Dixon once again. I mean, not only the right call on pit lane, trusting in the driver's ability to save fuel, but Scott Dixon's magical ability to avoid damaging his race car when he hits something with his race car to come home with a solid points day.
And the two biggest gainers, Pato O'Ward up 4 spots. Great result for him, and Romain Grosjean up 4 spots, and Dave Burns caught up with him.
And Hinch, you know how you drivers remember strange stats sometimes? Romain Grosjean knows it was 3,908 days since his win in Formula 2 back in the day. How close was this today?
Very close, but not close enough, right? It was fun, you know, with a right tire strategy. The last caution I thought it was going to be great. Lost a bit of time when Marcus stuffed it in front of me. Then catch Alex over. The first overtake didn't work. If that one had worked, I think it was a win, but he did a really good braking to defend his position. I had to wait an extra lap and use another 15 seconds of push to pass. And then Joseph was up there. He did make one mistake, but I just couldn't use it. And then, I have to be honest, the Chevy engine was fast on the straight, so I couldn't quite keep up. But you know, very happy with P2 today. First podium under the DHL color. It's a great day, and looking forward to more.
Did the caution make a difference? If you'd stayed green, would it have been better for you?
I think so. I think the green would have been better, but that's not out of our control. So, you know, we take what it is. I think the first caution helped me to get back in the field and overtake 2 cars. So we went from 4 to second. So, you know, I think the first caution was good. The second one was maybe not ideal.
Great result for Romain. Second time he's finished second, still looking for that first win. That could come very soon, Kevin.
Another really good result for last year's champion, Alex Palou. Now, since he's moved to Chip Ganassi Racing, more than half his results on the podium, 10 of 19. Let's talk about that last sequence. You had pitted a lap or so earlier than Joseph Newgarden. Good battle as he came out of the pits. How did he ultimately win that one?
Yeah, I mean, we took the gamble on the first stop. We did a good strategy, to be honest. We went from third to first. That was only on strategy, and the pit stop, the crew did an amazing job. And then we were so close. It was a really good pit stop again, but I did the outlap before. That's why we came out behind Joseph. But yeah. They did an amazing job. I'm super proud of everybody at the 10 car and everybody at the Chip Ganassi Racing team. And it was not our day, but yeah, we'll try again at Barber.
I don't think you're flying under the radar, but people aren't talking about you a lot, and you're third in the championship. You've had 3 really strong races. Where's the program at this year? Are you just as strong a championship contender right now as you were, say, this time last year?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have actually more points than last year. So we came here with like 30 points to the first position. Now we're 15. So we did a good job. I don't know. We're flying behind the radar or out of the radar, but that's a good thing. We're really proud of the work we're doing, and we are improving all the results we did last year. So if we continue like that, it's going to be a good year for us.
I'm pretty certain for your competitors, you are on the radar. That's the reigning champion. Alex Palou finishes third today. Back to Dave.
And with Will Power now, who is the second best Team Penske Chevy on the day. We used the word looming at the end of the race. We saw you coming. How much more time did you need?
No, I wasn't. Didn't really have much for those guys in front. Just
we kind of was happy with 4th. It was a top 5 finish, and as we say, if we got that today, we'd be pretty happy considering where we were starting. And yeah, stoked to keep the Verizon 5G Chevy in the points there. You know, it's first most consistent start to a season I've had in a long time, so pretty happy with that.
So happy with that, but you mentioned the starting positions. Is that frustrating to you? Is there something we can do about that by the time we get to Barber?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough for everyone, like getting traffic, and I don't think I got a clean lap all weekend. It was just really difficult to get the gapping right and people backing up and such. But you know, it's the way it rolls. Sometimes it'll work for you, sometimes it'll work against you.
Marty, we'll see how the pole master can roll as they have a little more space coming up in Alabama.
Dave, an eventful weekend for Jimmie Johnson. Let's start with this race, Jimmy, and what happened in the race. What happened when you made contact with the tires there, and is the hand okay after this race?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I was hoping you might have some video to see.
We do.
I lost it so early. I'm not sure if there was some contact from behind or not, but I was under the impression that I kind of lost it in that rubber that's stacking up on corner entry. My crew maybe thought otherwise, but either way, the rubber is unlike anything I had ever seen before. Yeah, it's a little too late. But there was inches of rubber stacked up around the racetrack, especially before that last caution. And just very interesting to figure out where to place the car and how to drive on that rubber. And I think I was just wide on corner entry and potentially had my left rear in that rubber, and it just spun on the way in.
I've been around you for 20 years. I don't think I've ever seen an eventful weekend like this. Would you agree with that?
No, I've had them before. Canals would remember. We had to go to a couple of backups before we got to a race in Darlington one year. But, you know, it comes with it. I certainly feel bad that I put the team in this position, but I'm thankful for their support, the support from Carvana, my fan base. This still isn't easy, and you got to live on the razor's edge on these street courses, and there's no margin for error. And trying to be faster, trying to be more competitive, I made some mistakes this weekend. I'll learn from them and come back and be stronger.
So what is the process moving forward? Jimmy, obviously Barber is the next race, but there's a test at IMS, which I know you said yesterday, that's your #1 priority, Indianapolis 500. The test's coming up in 10 days.
Yeah, I feel like what I went through this weekend, I can carry on like this for the next couple of weeks until I would be healed up. But I'm going to see a hand specialist tomorrow in North Carolina and determine if we need to put a screw in it or not. I'm not sure what is the best pathway forward, the shortest recovery time. So I'll know more tomorrow afternoon.
There you go. Jimmie Johnson gutted it out this weekend. Tough weekend for Jimmie Johnson. A wreck on Friday, wreck on Saturday, and then a wreck here in the race as well, Kevin.
It was a good weekend for Pato O'Ward. We talked before the race about kind of restarting things here, and it looks like mission accomplished, a top 5 for you.
Yeah, man, today was honestly very solid for us. I know it's not a win, but we've had a very rough start to our year. All I wanted to do today together with the team was let's just get a nice solid foundation, and I'll take care of the rest. We will build on momentum from today, and we should be proud of that. We should be proud of and satisfied of what we accomplished today. We went forward, not just a couple positions, but a good handful. So we stayed patient. We picked them off one by one. We had great pit stop sequences. The guys were great in the pit stops, and we're heading into Barber, one of my favorite places.
You specifically said, hey, I don't have to have a podium. I just need a solid result, and they will build from it, and I'll get us back in the championship. Still confident there's plenty of time that you can fight for the championship again this year?
Yeah, man, there's 14 races to go. So there's plenty of racing to go. Today was a significant step forward considering where we started in the beginning of the week, and honestly, we were nowhere. So we made a big step into the qualifying. We took some risks into warm-up, and we took an even bigger step. So I had a great race car today. And you know, unlucky that we weren't starting a little bit further up front, but let's just eyes forward. I think we're going to be doing some good stuff into the next few races.
There are some perks to being a big-time race car driver, and before the race today, you got an opportunity to visit with one of the Super Bowl champions from the Rams, and what, you did a jersey swap today? Tell me about what your visit was like with Nick Scott.
Yeah, he brought the Super Bowl trophy, and we did a jersey swap. I mean, honestly, I have great respect for the guys doing in the NFL. I used to play actually when I was a kid, but after the second game, I said, man, this is not for me, because I was getting hit by guys that were twice my size. I've always been a very small person, so yeah, huge respect for what they did, and I think it's great that he came today, and I really think he enjoyed it. I think he loved it.
So you played both versions of football, right? Football, soccer, and American football as well.
So I actually was pretty handy in American football. I'm absolute trash in soccer.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's honest. He's pretty good in a race car too. That's Pato Award. Dave.
I don't know if we'll talk football with Dixon, but we've been talking strategy just a little bit, going from 16th to 6th. But there could have been a little bit more in there, Scott?
Yeah, honestly, it started with qualifying. You know, we had a big mistake on the car, which cost us, you know, to try and even make it through, you know, Q1. It was undrivable. So definitely bummed for, you know, the PNC Bank Grow Up great team. They did a hell of a job today. We were super aggressive on strategy. I think on that first sequence, we jumped 10 cars. Had to give up a little bit trying to save fuel, but honestly, I think people thought it was crazy, the lap that we pitted on, and still that Honda engine got us all the way through there. So kudos to HPD and Honda. It's a big weekend for them here with the Acura. So yeah, good points today. We made some inroads on the championship lead, which is good. But we got to get our act together, man. We got to make sure that we're getting everything and the maximum out of it, because the competition is super tough this year.
All right, very good. Scott Dixon. Lee, I would say, again today, he did very Scott Dixon-like things.
Absolutely, made something out of, well, not nothing, but made something positive out of a somewhat negative situation. There's the podium guys, all celebrating with their own respective stories to tell. Celebrating. Nothing like standing on the podium here in Long Beach, and we'll have more when we come back. We don't have to wait long until IndyCar fires back into life in Birmingham, Alabama at the peerless Barber Motorsports Park. It was a wild start to the season last year that resulted in Alex Palou, who stood on the podium today here in Long Beach, getting his first IndyCar career win. It would ultimately be the perfect way to start a championship-winning season. We'll see you there May 1st from 1 p.m. on NBC. Always terrific to go back to Barber, but we're not done with Long Beach just yet, as the top three celebrate on a very special podium. Here's Kevin Lee. Kevo?
This is a good day for Graham Rahal. +6 spots, finishing 7th. Tell me about the drive today.
Yeah, I thought it was a good day. Strategy was good. The end of the first stint was critical. We were able to go pretty good right at the end there, which gave us a nice gap to get by Kirkwood. I think Elio on that first stop, and from there, just the Quartz engine oil car was really strong. I thought, you know, once we got mid-race there with Pato and Rossi and those guys, I thought we were all about the same. Rossi didn't have anything for us, and that was a good sign, because frankly, the Andretti cars this weekend were untouchable, and so, you know, for us to make the gains that we did, we're still a ways off, but better, you know, and we'll just keep our heads down and focus on the next one.
Still a couple of more events before we get to the Indianapolis 500, but you're going to be testing at Indianapolis, which, by the way, is going to air on Peacock next week. Do you have a sense yet of where you guys are going to be at with the super speedway car there?
Well, I mean, I expect to win the Indy 500. I mean, you know, I thought last year we were very good. The year before that, we finished 3rd and won as a team. I expect us to be up front. I mean, you know, obviously, Dallas was a little bit concerning with our qualifying pace. We know why now. You know, but still, I think that we'll be very competitive. As a team, I expect RLL and the 15 car in particular to be really strong on race day.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks.
Graham Rahal with some honest reflectionary thoughts on his race, but positive looking forward. So, fellas, before we have to say farewell, what are your thoughts? James Hinchcliffe, start with you first. That was, the beginning wasn't so exciting, the end was thrilling.
It's fascinating. You know, you've got Joseph Newgarden, didn't have the result he wanted in St. Pete, and then follows it up with back-to-back wins. But you have these kind of sleeper drivers. We've talked about Alex Palou. We've talked about Will Power. Right now, we've got 4 drivers, only 16-point spread going into the 4th race of the season. We had a 29-point spread between 1st and 2nd coming in here. So we're actually seeing everything sort of converge. We're already normally by this point of the season, we're seeing one driver sort of separate themselves. Yep. And I think that sets us up for a great championship battle.
The best thing about the IndyCar series, we've only been on 2 of the 4 types of circuits on offer every season. We go to a permanent road course, totally resets the challenge for all the drivers. Still haven't been to a short oval yet, so much to play out this season. The fact that it's this competitive and the fastest car all weekend didn't win, made a huge mistake under pressure, just shows you cannot give an inch in this sport. Someone's going to pounce all over you.
And it's all building beautifully for the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the road course event, followed, of course, by the greatest spectacle in racing. And as Kevin mentioned there with his chat with Graham Rahal, April 20 and April 21 is a 2-day open test for all competitors and teams at the Brickyard in the lead up to this year's Indianapolis 500, which you see exclusively on NBC. What a day. We look forward to this on an annual occasion. It went back to its regular time slot as far as the month of the year, and the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach did not disappoint. We'll see you next at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama on May 1st. You'll see it live right here on NBC. Coming up next, it's your local news, followed by nightly news with Lester Holt, except on the West Coast. Thanks so much for watching IndyCars on NBC Sports.